We open on a dark, fiery red sky, an imposing Gothic castle burning fiercely. This is where a slave-born imperial guard met his end, protecting a mad emperor who had made a pact with a demon. Stone statues and armored figures flank the entrance, silently witnessing the destruction. As roaring flames consume a crumbling stone wall, you have to wonder, will he be remembered as a loyal knight, never abandoning his post? Or just a foolish loser, unable to grasp the changing times? Intense fire rages through a grand archway, smoke filling the air. For him, neither fate felt quite right. We see Cain Iater, an imperial guard, looking down, a faint blood mark on his cheek. Then, against a dark backdrop, a dramatic voice questions Cain. Why did you turn your blade at the last moment? It would have been so much cleaner to just vanish. Rebel leader Halo Reston confronts Cain aggressively, angrily asking if he truly could do it. Cain Iater, a bloody sword now in his chest, looks up. He states that he's lived for 29 years as an orphan, making his own choices all this time. With a determined, yet weary face, Cain reminds a young master of a dukedom to avoid fighting without reason. Amidst the fiery chaos, Halo Reston shouts with a distressed face, asking why Cain chose this path instead of just fleeing. Halo desperately calls out Cain's name, urging him to open his eyes. Cain's tear-streaked face gazes upwards through the fire, still hearing Halo's voice pleading with him to open his eyes. Distraught amidst the flames, Cain hears Halo urgently demand he get up. Halo calls out to the gravely wounded Cain, who collapses against a wall, pleading with him. A close-up shows Halo's hands tightly holding Cain, who is either unconscious or dying. Halo desperately calls out his name again. Suddenly, we shift scenes. Bare feet walk serenely on shimmering blue water. Cain emerges from this shimmering blue water, creating ripples as he questions his location. Is this death, he wonders? Cain walks across this glowing blue expanse, leaving a luminous trail. He considers it freedom, but finds it oddly underwhelming. He looks down thoughtfully, remembering Halo crying. A vast, cosmic watery expanse surrounds him, and Cain observes that he'll manage on his own. With a contemplative expression, Cain stands in this ethereal, watery domain, contemplating whether to truly savor his newfound freedom. As he contemplates, he looks forward, a questioning sound escaping him. Then, energy surges around Cain. Chains of light shatter with a powerful utterance. Cain becomes intensely charged with power. A powerful transformation is underway. He reacts with sudden intensity, letting out a surprised exclamation as power radiates from him. As this power radiates, Cain's perception shifts, and he enters a hazy blue and purple space. And then, a figure named Pale appears, extending his hand with a wide smile. Karen is born healthy and well, the maid smiling gently in the background. Pale smiles, presenting the baby to his father, and asking if he wants to hold his son. Halo smiles gently. He mentions the baby isn't crying, looking sturdy, as Pale holds his hands open, waiting with anticipation. Cain's expression is bewildered. What is happening? Against a bright background, a wish is made for the baby to grow strong and healthy. Halo smiles contentedly, cradling the baby and recognizing his youngest grandson. Heinrich stands formally behind him, observing. As Halo holds the baby, Cain is astonished by its old, wrinkled appearance. Is that Halo? Halo smiles, holding Cain as he cries out. Heinrich and Pale watch the scene, Halo showing a faint smile. Halo stands, realizing he's made the baby cry. As Karen's mother lies in bed, the maid and Pale observing. Cain cries intensely, tears streaming down his face. He continues to wail, looking up, wondering about his current situation. His mouth opens wide in a wail, tears welling from his eyes. Cain confusingly realizes he's Halo's grandson. This new world unfolds as a bustling medieval town, a grand castle perched on a lush green hill. Knight Cain later met his death alongside the evil emperor 45 years ago. He couldn't stop his lord from a wrongful path. Now Karen, resembling a professor, stands in a study, intently reading a small green book. Cain later became known as a symbol of unwavering loyalty, standing by his liege until the very end. This completes the Modern History Society's latest opinion on Cain later. The professor looks thoughtful, slightly concerned. He asks an unseen young master for his thoughts. Karen, looking tired, rests his chin on his hand, asking the professor for his own perspective. Karen just asked, and the professor shows a confusing expression. Karen suggests that the Grand Duke simply wants to restore his friend's honor. The The professor states Duke Halo and Lord Kane's friendship is a well-known story. Do you truly think that? Karen asks, causing the professor to react in surprise, asking what he means. Karen starts to clarify, elaborating that he believes his grandfather holds a grudge against his dead friend. This is Karen Reston, the 10-year-old third son of Halo Reston and only child of Count Pale. Karen further explains his grandfather is deliberately enhancing his friend's name. The professor reacts with shock and disbelief. What is Karen saying? He looks visibly surprised, sweat on his face, as he demands to know what Karen means. Karen then explains. His grandfather couldn't accept Kane choosing death instead of joining the revolution. Karen looks forward, arms crossed, deep in thought. He believes his grandfather ignored Kane's desire for a quiet death, instead pushing him as a hero. But wait, the professor then wonders, with a slightly ominous tone, if Kane truly wanted a quiet death. The professor stands, book and pointer in hand, facing Karen. Karen reveals there are records, though just hearsay, that the Grand Duke's duel with Kane later ended far too quickly for two men of similar skill. The professor's face breaks into a sweat, concern etched across his features as he's clearly deep in thought. Karen continues his analysis, wondering if Kane later chose death rather than fighting alongside his friend in a revolution. He finds his claim reasonable, then asks the professor for his opinion. The professor finds it remarkable that a mere 10-year-old could make such a deduction, fearing that agreeing with this audacious opinion could get him charged with blasphemy by the dukedom's knights. The professor nervously mumbles a hesitant reply, admitting he's never considered that perspective before. Karen lets out an amused sound. The professor, still holding his long pointer, reacts with surprise. Karen, with a wide, mischievous grin and bright eyes, reveals he was just kidding about his previous remark. He leans in slightly, confident, asking why the professor looks so rattled. The professor stands silently, seemingly thinking or hesitating before he can respond. Karen's feet move across a patterned floor as he states his name is Karen Reston. He walks through an ornate hall, considering himself the youngest grandson of the Reston dukedom, at least for now. Karen's expression turns serious as he realizes he's been reborn as the grandson of Halo Reston. He stands deep in thought, believing Halo foolishly made him a hero. Pale sits solemnly at an ornately patterned table while Karen stands behind him, stating that Halo should have understood without being told. This is Pale, Halo's youngest son. Karen affirms that Halo is his father. Karen clears his throat, getting the attention of Pale, who turns to face him. Pale prays at an ornate altar as Karen approaches. Pale asks if Karen's lesson is over. Karen confirms it is, then asks his father if he's been praying again. Pale looks startled and concerned. Karen questions his father about his persistent worries regarding the awakening ceremony. Pale reacts with surprise and apologizes with regret. Karen asks what for. His father then reveals he never awakened magic power, unlike Karen's two uncles. Pale looks down with concern, fearing he might have passed on that same burden to Karen. Karen calls out to Pale, questioning the meaning of his statement. Karen then smiles, grasps his father's arm, and declares his father is the greatest, no matter what anyone says. This declaration completely surprises his father. Pale, flustered and overcome with emotion, whispers Karen's name. He pulls Karen into a tight embrace, surprising the boy, and tells him he is the greatest son. Pale then playfully pinches Karen's cheeks, exclaiming with pure joy. Karen's face is comically squished and utterly flustered by his father's affection. As twilight settles over a magnificent castle, Pale invites Karen to dinner. "What do you want?" he asks, and Karen eagerly replies, "Meat." Cut to a dimly lit room where a small, glowing blue crystal object floats eerily in midair. Karen lies in bed, gazing thoughtfully at that same glowing blue object near his hand. His mind drifts to the mysterious awakening ceremony. He wonders about it, this awakening ceremony. Elsewhere, Kane sits on concrete steps, asking what the object is. Halo explains it's just a dusty old family ritual. We see Halo, shirtless with a wooden sword casually slung over his shoulder, perhaps in a training facility. Halo clarifies the ceremony's purpose. It's for unlocking one's innate magic power. Kane then asks if magic is something people are simply born with. He dismisses it, stating he cares nothing about such things. Halo continues, explaining that not everyone can awaken magic power. Kane just looks on with a smirk. Halo adds that even awakening magic power doesn't automatically qualify someone to become the family head. He concludes, revealing a tremendous secret is passed down only to the family head. Halo smiles, his wooden sword still resting on his shoulder. Cain questions this secret. Could it be a great treasure, or a wish-granting grimoire? Halo admits he'd certainly be interested in a secret like that. Cain then thoughtfully, almost hesitantly, asks if the secret is interesting at all. Maybe even just a little bit? He suggests it could be a secret to living quietly, somewhere remote. Halo looks contemplative, confessing that's actually his modest aspiration. But then he scoffs, dismissing Cain's dream entirely. Cain immediately retorts, "Are you mocking my modest dream?" He reminds Halo he has a weapon in his hand. With a determined gaze, Halo tersely concedes. Halo watches intently, a slight frown on his face. Then, Halo confidently grins, giving a thumbs up. He promises to specially share the secret with Cain if he becomes the family head. The scene shifts once more. We find Karen sitting by a large window, light streaming through the glass as he contemplates the magic awakening ceremony. Suddenly, intense magic surrounds Karen's body. This is clearly a powerful awakening. He looks up, still enveloped in that radiant energy. "There's no need to worry, Father," he declares. Karen stands, completely enveloped in swirling energy. He unleashes a powerful magical surge, illuminating everything around him. His power escalates further, his eyes now glowing intensely. A confident, almost menacing smirk forms on his face. With clenched fists, surrounded by a fierce magical aura, Karen asserts, "I completed my magic awakening a long time ago." And just like that, the scene shifts to a bustling, busy city. A mother then asks someone, "Are you amazed?" Karen confirms his amazement. It's his very first time on a train. He stands pale on the platform as a magnificent, steam-emitting train pulls in, instantly grabbing everyone's attention. Pale, Karen's mother, a bald mustache man, Karen himself, and even the maids are all gathered. Karen's mother explains this incredible train technology is only possible thanks to his father's sponsorship. Karen, playing it cool, reacts with a surprised, "I knew it." Pale just chuckles, telling his wife she's really flattering him. But Karen's mother winks and smiles back, insisting it's still a huge accomplishment, even if he says otherwise. Pale confirms his agreement. Karen reassures his father, telling him just how proud he is. Pale laughs, playfully calling it embarrassing. Karen then boasts, "This man supports 30% of the Reston dukedom's finances, even without awakened magic." With such a kind mother, both the Blue Jewel woman and Pale smile warmly, a father so devoted to his family. Karen looks contemplatively forward, a slight smile on his face, reflecting that they truly are the perfect parents. Distant mountain peaks are shrouded in mist. A long, green carriage train speeds through a rugged mountainous landscape, passing by a sheer cliff face. Karen looks out the train window at the passing scenery, deep in thought, wondering about something specific. A blonde book woman stands silently beside him, holding a book with a pensive expression. In the distance, a grand, sprawling castle appears. This is the Reston family's main estate. The green train continues to speed rapidly past the blurred, forested landscape. The massive Reston family castle reappears, now with its towering, blue-roofed spires in full view. At the base of the castle, a couple of men carry a box. The scene then shifts, revealing the Azure Sea fortress. Karen looks intensely, realizing something crucial is there. Karen then thinks about an incoming person. With piercing blue eyes and a determined smirk, this person is declared Halo Reston. Halo Reston stands resolutely, gazing forward, ready to face an unseen challenge. A new thought then occurs, starting with a powerful implication. Karen smiles broadly, his expression confident and mischievous. He ponders if Halo has been made into a great figure of history. Pale looks down at Karen, who is now enveloped in swirling energy. Pale's blue eyes widen in pure surprise. Karen declares he will become the exact opposite. With glowing red eyes and a predatory grin, Karen radiates intense energy. He vows to make the other's efforts utterly meaningless. Karen stands with a fierce expression, fists clenched, radiating a surge of newfound power. He declares he will become the worst trash in Reston. Karen stares forward with a determined smirk and a chuckle. He then makes a heartfelt vow. Halo, just wait for me. A majestic, fortified castle, complete with multiple spires and bridges, stands under a cloudy sky. A tree-lined path leads towards its grand castle gate. Suddenly, something is moving. A blur of rapid movement rushes right toward the entrance. A train screeches to a halt, steam billowing as it pulls into the station. On the platform, people greet the third young master, confirming his arrival. Pale steps off the train, met by formally dressed individuals who acknowledge it's been some time. He bows respectfully in return. Pale immediately asks Heinrich if it's been a year, wondering how he's been. Heinrich, ever polite, assures him he's always well, thanks to the Duke's grace. But wait, Pale notices a stern group of knights. Karen, ever sharp, asks if they're the famed Sea Wave Knights. He can't help but wonder if they've already sensed his mana awakening, a thought also crossing Pale's mind. The Sea Wave Knight and two others stand with serious expressions, perhaps indeed sensing Karen's awakened mana. Karen observes they're different from their territory's men, realizing his mana awakening will soon be discovered. Later that night, Pale and Karen stand before a magnificent lit-up palace. Karen thinks perhaps the discovery of his mana awakening doesn't truly matter. Heinrich gestures towards the path, telling the group he'll guide them to the main palace. Pale tells him to lead the way, and they follow Heinrich along the paved path towards the grand building. Inside a lavish reception room, a maid stands calmly. She's instructed to wait there while the Count greets family elders, and to call if she needs anything. The maid acknowledges the instructions, and Karen offers his thanks. Karen then surveys the vast reception room, visibly impressed by its scale. He comments on its huge size, noting the Azure Sea Fortress's impressive scale. He gazes out a grand window at the city, thinking there's nothing to do, wishing he had asked to visit the library instead. Suddenly, a loud "Fuhu" rings out. Who is this? It's Leo, arms crossed, looking utterly smug as he confronts Karen. He immediately points out Karen's interest in the library, calling him a bookworm, just as rumors suggested. Karen reacts with a confused expression. Leo condescendingly tells Karen that as his uncle's child, he has slim chances of awakening and should just stick to studying. Leo continues to disparage Karen, claiming he seeks wealth like commoners, just like his father. Karen silently processes Leo's harsh words, shocked and distressed. Then he turns, exclaiming in surprise. Leo confidently challenges Karen to a fight, clenching his fists and beginning to manifest his magic power. But Karen, his eyes glow with an intense blue light. He menacingly asks if a mad dog is growing up in the main house. Leo is instantly surprised, questioning what's happening. His gaze snaps up in utter shock and confusion at this unexpected display of power. His eyes widen in extreme surprise, his face contorting in fear and disbelief at this unseen development. He can only exclaim his shock, asking, "How could this be? Look who's back." Karen is now fully visible, smiling smugly and radiating immense power. Leo questions when his magic awakened, but Karen simply replies that even his own father doesn't know. Still radiating power, Karen tells Leo they now have a problem, leaving Leo confused. Leo appears shadowed and menacing as Karen delivers a chilling statement. There's no room for two mad dogs in this house. Karen grins menacingly, his eyes glowing intensely as power radiates from him. He smugly declares he will take a specific role, instructing Leo to step aside, which clearly distresses Leo. As the energy intensifies, a silhouette of a horned figure with glowing eyes and a menacing smile materializes, and Karen declares, "It is time for a beating." Leo stands firm, fists clenched, radiating power as he prepares for the coming fight. But then, amidst fading energy, Leo blurts out in shock. Meanwhile, in a lavish room illuminated by Tails, Raphael, and Pale, they observe that Karen has already awakened. Heinrich looks on intently, telling Tails, Raphael, and Pale that 3 knight captains have confirmed the awakening. Tails acknowledges the news. Raphael Reston, the second young master, ponders how someone could awaken magic without telling the main family. He confronts Pale, asking what he's plotting, but Pale looks away, denying knowledge and claiming he also doesn't know. Tails Reston, the first young master, steps between them, telling Raphael to stop his baseless speculation. He explains Pale hasn't awakened his own magic, so he wouldn't have noticed. Raphael leans on a banister and scoffs, finding the whole situation pathetic, while Pale stands alone, deep in thought. Suddenly, a worried man in a vest bursts through a doorway in alarm, telling Heinrich to come quickly. Heinrich turns and asks what's wrong. The worried man nervously addresses the second young master, who stands menacingly as Raphael looks on in surprise. Raffle's face then contorts in intense anger, his eyes glowing and teeth gritted as he lets out a furious expression. Karen startles as Raphael looks at Leo, who is distressed next to a sofa. Raphael extends a hand menacingly towards Karen, calling him insolent. Karen simply bows to greet him. Raphael clutches his face and aggressively confronts Karen, demanding to know what he was thinking. Karen looks at him as Pale calls out to his brother, and others react with surprise. Karen explains his actions to Leo. It was because Leo insulted his father. Karen then challenges Raphael, asking if he would have just stood by if his own father was insulted. Following Karen's question, Raphael is enraged. He declares Karen is speaking nonsense as the confrontation erupts into chaos. Pale tells his brother to stop, but Raphael rebukes Pale amidst the heated argument. Raphael accuses Karen's poor upbringing as the cause of the conflict. Amidst all the commotion, Heinrich restrains everyone to bring it to a stop. Heinrich reports, "The lord of the family is personally passing judgment." Pale forcefully pulls Karen from Raphael, demanding he release him and reminding him of the lord's words. Raphael looks absolutely furious. Pale kneels, checking on Karen, asking if he's okay. Karen looks up at his father, confirming he's fine after the struggle. So, they're all heading out together. Raphael scoffs dismissively as Pale agrees to join, with Heinrich observing everything. Karen tells his father he agrees, remarking that it's been a long time. Halo immediately questions why a major incident broke out right after they reached Azure Sea Fortress. Pale then directly addresses his father about the whole mess. But Halo rebukes Pale for speaking out of turn, declaring he wasn't asking him. Instead, he'll hear the answer from his son. He knows Karen isn't thoughtless and demands every single detail behind his behavior. Karen asks Halo if he'll actually be heard out before receiving punishment, questioning his intent. Halo listens from his desk. Karen explains Leo had insulted his father. But Raphael angrily interjects from behind, dismissing Karen's explanation as nonsense and demanding the actual truth. Enraged by Raphael's outburst, Halo clenches his fist and loudly commands him to be silent. He continues to scold Raphael, questioning his audacity to raise his voice in his presence. Raphael immediately apologizes to Halo. Raphael suggests they call for Leo to confirm the facts, asking Heinrich if Leo's treatment is finished. Heinrich confirms treatment is complete and offers to bring Leo to the office. Karen then explains he awakened his magic power 3 years ago, smiling softly towards Halo. Halo questions why this magic has been kept hidden, even from his own father, until now. Halo deeply ponders this. The boy awakened his mana 3 years ago. Karen continues, explaining he only identified his magic power after reading a book, keeping on about what happened next. Halo, looking serious and questioning, asks for the next part of the story. Karen smiles mischievously, a hand behind his head, explaining he wanted to keep his magic power a secret. He thought having a secret was fun, enjoying that the knights in his territory had no idea. Halo looks serious, questioning if that's truly the entire explanation. Karen confidently affirms it's the complete explanation. As Tail and Raphael stand, Heinrich announces young Lord Leo's entrance into the grand room. Leo enters, a silent thought running through his mind. His bandaged face and worried expression are clear for all to see. Halo sternly questions Leo about insulting his uncle, just as Karen reported. Leo watches with a nervous expression, then reacts with distress, hesitating, and offering a partial denial as he looks back and forth between Karen and Halo. Karen, with a sarcastic cry, apologizes to his grandfather. Leo is shocked, questioning why Karen is suddenly acting so pitiful. Appearing pitiful, Karen explains. Leo insulted his father, calling him vulgar and obsessed with money. He continues, saying Leo called his father incompetent, arrogant, and someone with no right to succession. Karen concludes, admitting his mistake in hitting brother Leo, despite all those insults. Leo watches, growing increasingly worried and disbelieving. But Leo denies saying any of those things Karen claimed. A close-up shows Leo's clear distress. Karen's eyes glow with an aura as he looks intently at Leo. Halo intently questions Leo. Is Karen's report true? Leo confirms it. Yes, it's true. Pale reacts with a jolt of surprise. Halo acknowledges the information, then prepares to speak further. With the awakening ceremony tomorrow, the punishment for both will be postponed until after it's over. A grand castle stands illuminated under a full moon on this starry night. Everyone is dismissed to rest, reminded to keep this information in mind. Later, Heinrich is asked about his thoughts on Pale's son. Heinrich believes there are many interesting things for his lord. Halo agrees, stating the boy is indeed interesting. Halo, now at his desk, explains that the boy awakened and hid his magic power 3 years ago. He adds that the boy also seemed to question the skills of the knights in Pale's territory. Halo interprets Karen's words as a subtle criticism. He neglected Pale by assigning unskilled men. Heinrich reassures Halo he's overthinking it. But Halo disagrees, believing the child is different. Something special will surely be revealed tomorrow, he states, gripping his glass. Halo stands contemplatively, concluding magic awakening alone doesn't reveal everything about a person. He wonders, will the awakening ceremony be completed safely tomorrow? A large, luminous full moon shines brightly against the dark, star-filled night sky. Halo then ponders what the boy will obtain if he completes the ceremony. The night stretches over an expansive landscape of rolling hills and distant mountains. As night continues over a sprawling, illuminated city centered around a grand castle, Halo expresses his extreme curiosity. The night continues, stretching over a mystical forest scene. A faint moon is visible through dense, dark, sparkling trees. Swift movement travels through the heart of this vibrant, glowing forest. This swift movement through the forest leads to a luminous clearing. An intricately carved runic stone pedestal stands on a circular platform, emanating a powerful aura. Under a clear, star-filled night sky, a grand, castle-like structure rises from a dense forest. A diverse group, including some in dark robes and members of the Reston family, moves through the dimly lit forest. Karen pushes forward, his eyes wide with surprise as he observes the hooded figures. He quickly realizes these are the elders of the Reston family. Deeper into the moonlit forest they go, some figures now glowing with an eerie blue light. Karen grasps that even in retirement, these elders possess incredible skill. Further into the dark forest, we see Tails, Halo's eldest son, and his daughter Leon. Raphael, the second son, stands there too with his son Leo. Raphael watches with an intense, focused expression. Karen, too, gazes intently, his expression thoughtful and concerned. With the entire family involved, Karen understands this situation is far more critical than he first imagined. The whole family now gathers even deeper in the dark forest, standing around a central point, surrounded by the Reston elders. At the very center, a glowing, intricately carved stone rests on a platform. Karen ponders its identity. Illuminated by the artifact's blue glow, Karen finally realizes this is the fabled Stone of Oath. Halo solemnly announces, "The awakening ceremony will now begin." He explains the process, passing through a rift, a tear in reality, created by the Stone of Oath itself. Beyond this rift, a unique world, guided by the Stone of Oath, will unfold. Each person gets their own distinct world, revealed only by the Stone of Oath. Karen listens intently, a thoughtful demeanor on his face. Halo concludes his instructions. The ceremony ends when Karen uses a retrieved weapon to utterly destroy this new world. Karen smiles, a respectful agreement with his grandfather. As the ceremony kicks off, Halo stares intently, his blue eye blazing with intensity. In his left hand, Halo holds a glowing pendant. Energy emanates from it as he gives his final approval to proceed. The pendant swirls with energy, forming an upright, rune-like symbol. Halo now stands before an ornate altar, surrounded by the gathered group. A powerful column of light erupts, shooting high from the altar. This powerful column of light blasts into the night sky, surrounded by swirling energy formations. Karen watches, exclaiming in pure surprise. The surge of energy intensifies, forming a swirling portal. Halo looks defiantly at Karen, asking, "Are you scared?" Pale gently touches Karen's shoulder, asking if he's truly okay. Karen looks up at Pale, completely calm. He smiles reassuringly, telling Pale he's okay and will return. Karen thinks about the task: retrieve a weapon from beyond the rift and destroy that world. With a determined, confident smile, Karen declares this challenge will be easy. After all, destroying things has always been his job. Halo observes the unfolding event with an assessing gaze. Halo then calls out, urging Karen to overcome his fear. Karen stands with his back turned, power radiating around him, questioning if he can truly overcome his fear. Halo watches him, arms crossed, joined by his family, as Karen prepares to engage a mysterious digital entity. Suddenly, Karen looks surprised, his eyes wide and confused as he questions his new surroundings. Where am I? He wonders. A glowing word, dungeon, appears over a dark entrance, and deceased figures lie scattered across the ground. Karen cautiously steps through the entrance of a burning castle, carefully moving over scattered bodies and debris. He continues through a hall filled with bodies, his face etched with shock and disbelief. Why did this happen? He questions. Am I being shown memories of this place? He asks, almost to himself. Anger flashes in his eyes as he questions if someone is trying to make him feel guilty by showing his dead comrades. Deceased knights lie sprawled on the stairs of the burning main palace, leading straight to the throne. Distress fills Karen's eyes. He sees his world as cruel and desolate. A bright light shines from his side, illuminating his face, revealing shock and profound turmoil as a thought about the child of the blue wolves echoes. Suddenly, a grand, dark chamber appears, dominated by a majestic archway glowing intensely and casting eerie red reflections on the floor. An unknown voice thinks of fulfilling an ancient covenant made with an ancestor. The glowing energy within the grand archway intensifies, its ornate and imposing structure now shimmering. Karen steps onto a blood-splattered step as an unseen voice from the chamber begins to question his identity. Karen reacts with a shocked expression. Am I a demon? He asks. He stands cautiously amidst the fiery, desolate landscape and fallen figures. A mysterious voice explains that the blood flowing in his veins cannot be invaded by a mere low-level demon. The voice encourages Karen. Overcome your fear and find what you desire on that throne. Karen approaches and pushes open colossal doors. He tentatively steps into a vast, newly opened red chamber. It's been a while, Karen thinks. He believes he sees something on the distant throne. Karen stands, gazing at the distant throne, convinced the Emperor made a deal with a demon to protect it. Inner turmoil consumes him. His comrades died because of something unknown. Karen feels he's treading on the corpses of his comrades as an unseen voice calls him, the child blessed by the cold North Sea, whose soul has been lost. Karen is surprised as an unseen voice from the Blue Clan welcomes his arrival. Suddenly, a powerful demonic sword, Ruin, is presented, its tip pointing upwards. An unseen voice declares, "It is your weapon." Karen powerfully holds the demonic sword aloft. He looks up, a shocked expression on his face. He knows it. It's his beloved demonic sword Ruin, bestowed upon him by the Emperor. An unseen voice commands Korin to infuse mana into the weapon. But Karib reacts with shock and alarm, realizing this demonic sword will consume his very soul. We see the demonic sword Ruin displayed prominently, its evil thoughts thankfully extinguished by his grandfather. Yet, the demonic sword stays central, as a voice explains its current form is a distortion created by a demon. Energy from the sword spreads, and an unseen voice commands the child to awaken his weapon. In a dark setting, an ornate armored man declares that only Karen has awakened this weapon. The armored man stands partially in shadow as Karen looks up, asking if he can really touch the sword. His hand is clenched tight at his side, revealing deep inner conflict and fear. He worries about returning to that past self, the one who took countless lives obeying the Emperor's orders. Is he ready for that power again? The crucial moment of decision is here. Suddenly, the Purple Eyes man appears. He's shirtless, transforming, bathed in red light, with a determined yet pained expression. An unseen voice urges him, "Overcome your fear." The Purple Eyes man looks down in deep reflection, his blonde hair catching that intense red glow. Then, a strong realization hits him. He looks forward, a contemplative expression on his face, finally understanding what's truly happening. Karen's intense expression also shows his surprise at Halo's unusual kindness. A voice explains, "This awakening ceremony's true purpose goes way beyond just getting a weapon." Karen strides confidently down a dimly lit path, his body radiating with newly awakened power. He continues his stride, arriving at a grand golden structure. An unknown voice declares, "This event is for the family heir, the one who awakened special power to overcome his fear." And with that, the next stage is ready. Karen's hand firmly grips the hilt of a dark weapon. It has a pointed tip, surrounded by a subtle red aura. He forcefully holds this dark weapon in a ready stance as energy swirls around him, clearly startled. The glowing blonde swordsman's eye intensely glows with bright light as mystical energy swirls all around him. The water aura man stands overwhelmed, his body vigorously emitting powerful energy. Is this the azure clarity? He questions. Meanwhile, the spiky black-white man stands with his back turned, observing a large sword enveloped in mystical energy. He instantly recognizes it as Ruin's form. The powerful Ruin's form sword stands tall, emanating immense power around its dark blade and ornate hilt. This powerful sword continues to emanate power as the spiky black-white man contemplates its unusual form, wondering why it appeared this way. Finally, the blue energy swordsman's silhouette holds a large ornate sword, surrounded by ethereal wisps. A voice explains, "This weapon once belonged to their ancestor Rael." The ornate sword remains prominently displayed as an unknown voice then explains. The sword the listener's grandfather took was also a progenitor's sword. The blue energy swordsman clutches his weapon, a determined look on his face, the power of the blade illuminating him. An unknown voice immediately begins to explain why this sword, unlike his grandfather's, isn't in any records. Karen's eyes shine brightly, reflecting the very power of the sword back. This power, the voice clarifies, is extremely different from anything his family has ever known. Suddenly, Karen groans in intense agony as an immense power surges through him. He struggles to grip the sword, questioning what this intense power truly is. He's told to endure, as the sword's energy begins to engrave itself directly into his body. Pain and resolve war across Karen's face, his eyes shining even brighter. He feels the mana surging within him intensify even further. Cheris, meanwhile, looks thoughtful and amazed, considering the sword's incredible mana effect. A mysterious voice then affirms the sheer power of the azure mana. Now a spiky-haired Karen stands confidently in a red room, sword in hand, asking its real name. The formidable dark sword stands prominently, surrounded by ominous silhouettes of grotesque demons with glowing eyes. This weapon, it's revealed, has beheaded countless demons and devoured their powers. Karen holds the distinctive sword, looking at it with a focused gaze and a look of recognition as it emits a powerful sound. And its true name is finally revealed, the execution sword guillotine. Karen, now holding the dark, ornate weapon with its prominent blue gem, stares forward, acknowledging its name, the execution sword guillotine. Karen immediately deduces the unseen speaker is none other than the Blue Dragon, his family's guardian. An unknown voice then explains that the sword's darkness resembles the deep, endless sea. The voice adds that this weapon perfectly suits Karen's destiny. Karen looks up with curiosity, asking the unseen speaker their identity. The unseen speaker declares Karen isn't worthy to know their true name yet. Then a challenge. Dominate the sea with your power, Karen, and find them in the North Sea. Karen listens, a contemplative expression on his face. Karen silently processes the challenge, bowing his head just a bit. Holding his decorated sword, Karen then asks, "How do I leave this mysterious place?" The speaker simply replies that Karen should already know the way out. A sharp exclamation escapes Karen. He realizes something important. Gripping the sword's hilt tightly, Karen confirms his sudden understanding. Karen enthusiastically raises the sword, declaring he's long wanted to try this. He dramatically slashes downwards, unleashing a powerful wave. As Karen completes his dynamic action, his still glowing sword leaves a circular motion trail. Meanwhile, Tails, Raphael, and Halo observe a distressed Pale, who's covering his face. Karen watches, arms crossed, while the crest-collar man remains silent. Halo tries to reassure Pale, telling him not to worry too much. Pale then apologizes to his father. Halo acknowledges it must be painful to see a son choose such a new path. Halo looks on intensely, thinking sympathetically about Karen's difficult journey. He states, "It's not easy." Halo advises them to compose themselves, despite the difficulty. Pale looks up at his father. Suddenly, a large, ornate stone of oath pillar begins to glow, and then it fractures. From behind, Leo watches as cracks begin to appear. The stone of oath fractures even further. It continues its catastrophic breaking. Someone urgently alerts grandfather about the destruction. Tali looks intensely surprised and concerned, asking, "What's happening?" Halo Man observes right behind him. From the breaking stone of oath, a central, ornate pedestal emits powerful energy. The ground shatters all around it. Halo stands wide-eyed and shocked, bringing a hand to his face. He asks, "What is happening?" But standing firm on the broken, debris-strewn ground is Karen, holding a large, glowing silver sword with intricate blue patterns. He looks surprised. Karen now stands in a desolate, starlit landscape. Has he truly returned? He looks around, disoriented, having just arrived back. Karen considers his situation, wondering, where did the Stone of Oath disappear to? Finally, Halo looks on, a stern expression on his face. A massive sword plunges into shattered stone remnants. Karen, standing nearby, lets out a gasp of surprise. He stands right in the middle of the now shattered Stone of Oath, sword in hand, asking, "Is the Stone of Oath broken?" His family watches, completely stunned. Pale is in absolute shock, clutching his head in distress. "Karen, what have you done? You broke the Stone of Oath," he cries. As Karen greets his arriving grandfather, Pale remains utterly distressed. Halo appears, his expression stern and intense. Karen holds an ornate sword, his gaze fixed intently upon it. Halo reacts with surprise, his thoughts consumed by this mysterious weapon. He recognizes the intricate design instantly. It's the guillotine, his ancestor Reston's legendary beheading sword. This weapon's history has been passed down orally, kept secret from official family records. Halo wonders, why has it suddenly appeared now? A close-up on Halo's face shows wide, surprised blue eyes, now laced with accusation as he turns to speak to Karen. His expression deepens, a grim realization dawning upon him. Is the time of the Covenant approaching? He wonders. Karen holds the sword stoically as Halo questions him. "Are you not afraid of this weapon?" Karen grips the weapon firmly, remaining silent, clearly considering the weight of that question. Halo stands tall, authoritatively gazing at Karen. Karen simply affirms. Halo looks down contemplatively, stating his understanding. Then, he looks up pensively. Karen, his blue eyes filled with determination, begins to recall a long-past event. Halo remembers this ancestral memory. A covenant with the Blue Dragon, a vow to annihilate demons crossing from the world's end, one their ancestors couldn't fulfill. An ethereal blue landscape unfolds, hinting at a journey through a mystical realm. Halo explains the Stone of Oath was left as concrete proof of that covenant, a solemn vow to the future. The Stone of Oath, they awaited the one who would carry out this covenant. Could Karen be that successor? Halo declares his name, Halo Reston. He continues his ceremonial address to the observing group, declaring Karen, son of Pale Reston, a rightful member of the Azure Sea Fortress and worthy of inheriting the Spirit Sea style. This draws a surprised reaction from everyone. Raphael expresses intense disapproval, thinking to himself that such a young person shouldn't receive the Spirit Sea style. Following this powerful declaration, a profound silence falls among the group. Tails, meanwhile, ponders the name, the guillotine. Pale then asks Karen, "Are you hurt?" Karen responds to Pale, confirming he's not hurt. Tails looks on contemplatively, realizing he doesn't actually know every family weapon. He ponders that he's never heard of this particular sword before. An additional thought surfaces in his mind. He feels a deep sense of unease just looking at it. A concluding thought emerges. Pale's son is now walking a path his father had never taken. Pale gently places his hand on Karen's head, a tender gesture of kindness. Halo declares he will not let Pale's son sway the matter of succession. Halo turns to the cloaked figures, announcing the awakening ceremony is over. It's time to return, he suggests. But wait, Raphael urgently calls out to his brother. Will he just stand by and watch? Raphael questions Tails. Tails, looking serious alongside Raphael, tells him they must speak privately and soon. Raphael accepts the private talk, wondering if even the greediest among them is feeling a crisis right now. He stares intently at his brother, asking, "Do you know a sword called the guillotine?" Tails reacts with sheer concern and disbelief, declaring it impossible. Even the blonde high-collar man shows a deeply shocked reaction. Raphael speaks with great intensity, telling his brother he just can't comprehend. Still agitated, Raphael questions how anyone could understand the situation with Pale's son. Tails then declares what truly matters now. A tense moment lingers, and he adds, this is not the time for them to fight among themselves. Pale leads Karen, who clutches a sword, as the group walks away in silence. Is Karen fine being left alone? Pale asks. Karen simply answers yes. Heinrich questions Pale. Is there any place safer than the Azure Sea Fortress? Pale, with a thoughtful and concerned expression, agrees but admits he has worries. He continues, seriously, acknowledging the fortress is safe from outside threats, but he's worried about other issues. He's deeply worried about internal threats. Pale's hand gently caresses Karen's head, and Karen looks up with a soft, content smile. Karen believes his father's presence will keep his brothers from acting rashly. Heinrich addresses Pale as third young master, and Pale responds inquisitively. Lady Sabina will conduct the Spirit Sea-style inheritance, Heinrich states. Pale reacts with joyful recognition, calling out to his aunt. He feels even more at ease, knowing his aunt will oversee the inheritance. Karen, with a pensive expression, believes Sabina's involvement will ensure a positive outcome. Sabina Reston is Halo's sister, known to be a master as skilled as Halo himself. Was she once known as the White Wolf? Karen wonders. A blue-trimmed dress woman smiles warmly as Pale tells Karen his aunt always dotes on her. But he warns him, no disrespect to his aunt. Karen promises his father he will do his best. Heinrich then shares a message from the head of the family. Pale asks if the message came from his father. Heinrich continues, a residence in the Azure Sea Fortress will be prepared for them to visit anytime. Pale reacts with a dramatically surprised, wide-eyed expression, feeling a sudden shock. He looks down thoughtfully, processing the news from his father. Pale thanks Heinrich, stating he can now leave without worry. Heinrich replies it was nothing. Pale places his hand on Karen's head. He tells Karen to take care, offering help if he ever needs it. The train speeds rapidly through the town, and Heinrich glances back at Karen. He offers some advice, asking if Karen is ready to hear it. With an eager smile, Karen assures him he is. Heinrich, looking stern, immediately warns Karen. Lady Sabina dislikes being called grandmother the most. He continues, suggesting it's best to even avoid Aunt Grandmother. Karen thanks Heinrich, promising to remember it all, but internally wonders, what's so wrong with calling a grandmother? Suddenly, they arrive at a formidable stone wall and gate, guarded by several knights. Heinrich gestures towards the entrance, explaining Lady Sabina is waiting inside. He reveals that only direct family descendants can enter this specific cultivation chamber in the Azure Sea Forest, and adds that Leo is also there. Karen's eyes light up. He rubs his hands together with a mischievous expression, eagerly anticipating being with Leo. It seems the second young master specially requested Lady Sabina. Karen declares he's going in, waving goodbye as he walks away from the staff. Heinrich quietly watches him go, then adjusts his monocle with a faint smile, remarking that things will finally get lively again after a long time. Karen approaches a sturdy, ornate wooden door, now engulfed in an intense, swirling aura of magical energy. He looks upwards with a serious expression, sensing immense magic power emanating from it. Karen hesitates before the massive double doors when an unseen voice questions his delay in entering. Taking a deep breath, Karen pushes open the large wooden door, formally greeting those within and introducing himself by name and lineage. His eyes widen in shock at what he sees. Sabina then reveals herself, asking what's happening with a look of suspicion. She then directly asks Karen if her appearance surprises him, identifying him as Karen Reston, son of Pale. Lady Sabina sits regally on a chair, her blue eyes gazing intently with a subtle, confident expression. She remarks on Karen being the son of Pale and how quickly time passes. Karen, still surprised, wonders if she has reconstructed her body with magic power. He quickly dismisses the idea as ridiculous and impossible, his thoughts intensifying as he realizes. This is the realm of an 8-star knight. Karen stands with his back to us, staring at an open doorway. Lady Sabina quickly questions his blank inaction, telling him to sit cross-legged right away. She tells Karen to sit next to Leo, who looks surprised as Karen acknowledges him as brother. Karen kneels down, enthusiastically suggesting they'll meet often and should get along. Leo can only give a hesitant reply. Lady Sabina leans back, expressing her surprise at hearing Karen called the White Wolf. The remark catches Karen off guard, and he can only manage a startled, unfinished reply. She states her interest in history, having read it in a book, and remarks that Karen is an interesting kid, just as his older brother said. But Karen quickly asks what his grandfather had said about him. Sabina confirms that's what Halo said, and seeing it for herself, she now understands why that comment was made. Lady Sabina ponders Halo's words, comparing Karen to someone who must navigate a vast ocean. She reflects on his future, knowing Halo believes she should guide him to one day rule the sea. Halo told her she must become Karen's lighthouse, and Sabina echoes the thought, promising to be that guiding light. Even after a brief moment, Lady Sabina can clearly tell Karen's potential is immense, describing him as rough and endlessly vast. His potential is like a vast, open sea, serene under a blue sky, yet untamed as waves surge across the horizon, birds soaring overhead. As she realizes Karen possesses the potential to one day rule the Great Sea, his eyes glow intensely. She can hardly believe she's met such an interesting child at her age, thinking this encounter might bring her joy for a while. Lady Sabina then stands, declaring they will now begin. She states their cross-legged position is the most basic foundation for mana training. She explains that after the introductory stage, mana training can be done without sitting cross-legged. Sabina then powerfully demonstrates a mana ability, stating, "This is how it's done." Karen and Leo react with pure shock and effort. Karen looks intently forward, enveloped by a shimmering aura, recognizing it as the azure mana. Lady Sabina confidently explains that the sea domination technique is a method to literally rule the sea. Azure mana allows one to create and operate oceans within their own body. She elaborates, operating more oceans leads to greater strength. 8 oceans signify an 8-star level, and when those 8 are operated as one giant sea, it represents the 9-star level. Only 3 people across the entire continent have ever reached this level, she reveals. Within the Empire, only one has managed to achieve it, and Karen calls out, "Halo." Lady Sabina gazes down, a serious, contemplative look on her face, as she declares her intent. She will catch up to Halo in this life. Karen reacts with surprise, realizing Lady Sabina holds a strong desire for power. But then, a coy smile crosses Lady Sabina's face. She sees Karen as an intriguing child, one she thinks will be enjoyable to train. She instructs them. First, let mana flow through the passages the awakening ritual has opened. Karen and Leo intensely focus as powerful energy surges around them. Karen reminds them, the power of the sea is to be accepted, not controlled. Karen, eyes tightly closed in concentration, visualizes powerful waves of energy. Chaotic, untamed waves of power surge around him, showing his control is still rough. He meditates intensely, energy emanating from his body. His heart glows. The awakening begins right from his core. Lady Sabina observes from behind, visibly surprised by the power radiating from both children. She expresses surprise at the powerful mana from a kid who just finished the ritual, as Karen intensely radiates power, sweat beading on his skin. She notices even Leo, who learned the sea domination technique 2 years ago, is only just beginning to aim for 2-star level. She watches Karen intently, realizing he carves his own mana passages without her teaching. Karen grimaces in agony, enduring immense pain from the surging energy. His body feels like it's tearing apart. He clenches his jaw, struggling with the intense power, letting out a pained sound. Then he briefly stops his mana training, his back turned. Lady Sabina watches, surprised, wondering if he stopped due to strain. She observes Karen, realizing he can even control his training pace. She's surprised by the full implication of his ability. On the other side, Leo collapses onto his hands and knees on the floor, overcome by the training's strain as energy fades around him. Lady Sabina quickly turns her head, calling out urgently for Leo. She quickly kneels beside him, telling him not to force his mana. Leo calmly watches, then apologizes. Lady Sabina's expression turns thoughtful, tinged with regret. She realizes she'd overlooked the others while focusing on Karen. She reflects. Even after awakening their mana, they are still just children. Lady Sabina thinks, as an adult, she's there to prevent them from harming themselves with childish recklessness. Meanwhile, Karen looks scornfully at Leo, dismissing his weakness. She then shifts her focus back to Karen, thinking how different he is compared to the other child. Lady Sabina accurately grasps Karen's own limits. She notices he stopped training himself to avoid straining his body. She observes Karen has the composure to control himself, even with his intense desire for strength. Lady Sabina, wondering if he'll need guidance, calls Karen forth. She looks at him, declaring a 3-year duration where she'll guarantee his safety. Her instruction is clear. Build his own strength for these next 3 years. Karen looks up with a pensive expression, confirming his understanding to Lady Sabina. Meanwhile, at the training ground, several figures intensely train with swords in a paved courtyard. Blades clash as they practice. Trainees continue their sword work, one mid-swing, when Zeres criticizes their technique, demanding they swing like it's a real battle. Just then, he notices Karen and Leo walking into the training ground. Leo asks Karen what sword he plans to use for training, and Karen immediately challenges him, asking if he has a problem with it. Karen then passionately explains he uses his grandfather's scabbard because people find his sword's aura too menacing. He asks if Leo dislikes it, and Leo quickly confirms he does not. Zeras bows respectfully to the two young lords, welcoming Lord Karen and Lord Leo. Karen realizes this is the very person they had been told about, the one who taught them. Zera's Winter Guard formally introduces himself as the Knight Commander of the Sea Wolf Knights. He announces he'll be overseeing Lord Karen's sword training from this day forward, inviting the young lords to simply address him as Sir Zeras. Karen politely greets Zeras, thinking he can tell someone is an 8-star master just by looking. But Zeras sternly tells them he won't use their noble titles until they're acknowledged by the Sea Wolf Knights. Karen calmly tells him not to worry, explaining it's more comfortable as he's not used to the title of grandson of the Duke. He declares he knows the Reston family's tradition is to earn respect through skill, a fact Zeras, like Lord Leo, usually displays displeasure about. Leo, meanwhile, looks surprised, wondering why he's being looked at. Zeras ponders, wondering if a capable successor has finally arrived. But then Karen's eyes glow. With a malevolent grin, he clutches a formidable sword and declares his future dominance. Zeras and Leo are instantly startled by Karen's sudden display of power. Zeras looks distressed, realizing an even worse, more formidable adversary has appeared. In the expansive castle courtyard, now bustling with combat training, Zeras considers Karen an even bigger scoundrel than Lord Leo. 3 years later, at the Azure Sea Fortress, we find Halo taking a big gulp of liquor from a glass filled with ice. Meanwhile, Lady Sabina, holding her own drink, praises Zeras' brother's liquor as the absolute best. But Halo just tells her to stop stealing his drink. Lady Sabina, indignant, reminds him she spent 3 years teaching his grandnephew at his request. Halo thoughtfully acknowledges that 3 years have indeed passed. He then asks for her impressions of the boy, making her look surprised as she considers her reply. Lady Sabina describes Karen as a monster. Halo defensively tells her not to call his grandson a monster. Zeras, standing nearby, clears his throat and interjects, saying even the word genius might be an insult to the boy. Halo asks if Zeras shares the same thought, and Zeras responds with surprise. With a serious expression, Zeras offers his detailed opinion after observing Lord Karen for 3 years, agreeing with Lady Sabina. He details Karen's exceptional physical abilities, talent, attitude, will towards training, and sheer guts. Zeras believes the boy is superior even to their first grand heir, known as a genius. Halo then questions if he means compared to Hugo, the firstborn of the Tails family. Halo states that Karen's talent is even greater than Hugo's, who is considered the best in the entire empire. Zeras confirms it. Lady Sabina wonders if this situation might cause trouble for the family if not handled carefully. She brings it up to her brother, prompting Halo to question what she's discussing. Lady Sabina's expression turns serious, warning about Karen's influence on the line of succession and what he would mean for their sons. Halo asks if she's suggesting his sons would threaten their own nephew. Lady Sabina questions what would happen if Karen's outstanding talent becomes known throughout the empire. She clarifies that Karen's talent would clearly influence the line of succession and future events. Halo looks down with a troubled expression as Lady Sabina subtly observes him. She asks him if their family is truly finished now that the Stone of Oaths is broken, explaining that the number of magical beasts crossing from beyond the North Sea has sharply increased. But Halo sternly dismisses her words as absurd, looking directly forward with a resolute expression. Halo then declares a prophecy. The one who broke the stone will raise a new one, just like their founding ancestor. Lady Sabina listens intently, making a questioning sound. She asks if the prophecy is only for the family head. Halo confirms it means the time of the covenant is near. She looks thoughtfully to the side, realizing the youngest will bear a heavy responsibility. Lady Sabina asks Halo, "When will Karen be told?" Halo's answer is firm and resolute. "When the time is right." Meanwhile, Karen himself is busy writing a letter to his father, checking in on his well-being. He apologizes for his absence, explaining he's completely engrossed in his training and can't visit home. He even worries about the colder weather, advising his father to dress warmly. Karen shares his progress. He's recently mastered the 4th stance of the Jihi style and the 4th form of harang swordsmanship. He also reassures his father that he's trying his best to get along with relatives, just as instructed, and he's taking especially good care of older brother Leo. But then, Karen adds a sheepish note. He has a favor to ask. He's run out of money and needs more allowance. The speaker finds amusement in this very relatable request. The scene shifts. He asks Heinrich, "Do you remember how anxious I was leaving him at Azure Sea Fortress 3 years ago?" He expresses surprise at how well Karen has adapted. Heinrich nods, noting that Azure Sea Fortress is always lively now, all thanks to the young Grand Heir. Pale looks thoughtful, questioning, "Is that really true?" He recalls advising Karen against standing out. Heinrich simply remarks, "A jewel naturally shines, even when still." Pale agrees. With a serious expression, Heinrich states the situation will change. News of Lord Karen might soon spread far beyond Azure Sea Fortress. Pale immediately asks if Karen will be assigned a mission. Heinrich confirms he must accomplish a task from the Blue Wolves. Pale looks deeply concerned. He understands the situation, but he has other worries. Karen's growing influence, he points out, will surely displease his 2 older brothers. Heinrich responds to his worry, saying he has only one thing to say. Pale questions him. "What do you mean?" Heinrich replies that Lady Sabina is extremely fond of Lord Karen. Pale immediately realizes Karen has his aunt's powerful support. Pale admits Karen often writes about his aunt's fondness, but hearing it from Heinrich is far more reassuring. Heinrich laughs, reminding him, Lady Sabina has always favored him. Pale laughs, satisfied that his monthly allowance has clearly paid off. He notices Heinrich is even making jokes, and his worries seem to have eased. Then, Pale looks thoughtful again, questioning, "Is Karen's aunt also scheduled to leave Azure Sea Fortress soon?" But Heinrich assures him he doesn't need to worry about that either. He confidently explains that Lord Karen has formed a strong bond with the Sea Wave Knights. In fact, the Knights have even given the young Grand Heir a nickname. Pale's understanding dawns, and he confirms, "Oh, I've heard that nickname too." We open on the vibrant Azure Sea Fortress, gleaming under the sun, an ornate structure dominating the view. This is the home of the young Grand Heir, known far and wide as the young mad dog of Azure Sea Fortress. Inside, Hans trains with a fierce expression, unleashing a powerful downward swing with his wooden sword. But Karen is quicker, striking Hans with his wooden sword. Hans reels back, wincing and letting out a pained sound. Reeling from the blow, Hans raises a hand, telling Karen to stop. He admits defeat. Karen, exasperated, scolds him. "Why did you twist your sword path and take the hit?" He explains that the Harang sword is useless if overpowered. It demands strength met with strength. Karen declares he'd press on even if a bone broke, insisting a grown adult shouldn't be so weak. Hans looks surprised. "You're probably the only one who'd criticize my strength," he says, adding that he's currently injured. But Karen passionately declares, "You have balloon muscles." Hans looks amused. He's never heard his muscles described like that before. Karen, more confident, affirms he's just being honest. Hans admits that facing Lord Karen without magic is now overwhelming. He laments his strength wasn't this bad last year. With a thoughtful expression, Hans suggests Karen might be deployed on a mission soon. Karen asks if Hans overheard something. Hans calmly explains that Zeras, not the family head, decides mission deployment times. Hans states Karen might be sent to the Granary region due to frequent magical beast appearances. Then, Karen announces to Leo, "We're being deployed on a mission." But Leo, looking annoyed, thinks he doesn't want to be on the same mission as Karen. His trainer tells him to focus on their sparring match. Leo, still distracted, hopes completing the mission well will please his parents. Elsewhere, Pale explains to Heinrich that Karen's letter isn't why he asked him here in person. Heinrich asks what's the matter. Pale holds out a small brown bag, asking him to look. Holding the bag, Pale seriously explains inspectors found it in a merchant's wagon, coming from the barony of Bellis. Heinrich looks shocked, realizing something disturbing. Pale confirms it. It's a narcotic. He instructs Heinrich to investigate the barony of Bellis from right here in Azure Sea Forest. Heinrich remains silent. A while later, a train suddenly arrives. A man appears, wondering aloud, "Is this the Azure Sea Forest?" Under a massive, glowing full moon, a snow-dusted medieval city shimmers at night. Torch-bearing guards patrol the cobblestone streets, their long shadows dancing under the moonlight and flickering torchlight. But who's that? Karen peeks discreetly from behind a burning brazier, eyes sharp as he watches the guards. He grins slyly, holding a dark bottle. There's a thrill in tampering with Zeraz's collection, isn't there? He even mutters. He still remembers the taste of liquor despite his young body. Suddenly, two men arrive, and Karen is surprised, sensing a familiarity about them. Baron Rohan earnestly discusses Duke Reston's urgent absence, but a bald man explains the Duke has gone to the capital. That's when Karen calls out to them. The bald man greets Karen, who immediately asks why he's out so late. The bald man then introduces Baron Rohan of House Belis, who has an urgent request concerning Chong Haeseong. Karen acknowledges this, while Baron Rohan privately wonders if this is the son of the third prince, pushed out of succession. With wide eyes and a thoughtful look, Baron Rohan processes the news. Karen has awakened to magic and is training at the main house, unlike his father. He formally introduces himself, stating it's an honor to meet him. Karen decides to hear the Baron out, suggesting he go directly to the Knight Commander. The bald man looks surprised, but Baron Rohan is still wondering if a child should be carrying a liquor bottle. But Karen asserts, if a visitor arrives in person, the situation is truly urgent. A noble should properly receive such an urgent visitor, shouldn't they? The bald man looks down thoughtfully, understanding the suggestion. He agrees to inform Sir Zeres, and Karen confirms the plan. Baron Rohan, despite his unease about the liquor bottle, deeply considers the young visitor's sharp political judgment. Karen then asks, should we go? The Baron continues to ponder the Reston family's alcohol customs, wondering if drinking is permitted at such a young age. Under the snowy night sky, a grand, half-timbered house glows with warm light. Inside, Karen begins to summarize the situation. In a dimly lit study, Karen confirms the problem: a bandit group in the eastern mountains. Baron Rohan agrees. Karen then asks about drugs circulating and commoners being sold as slaves due to these bandits. Baron Rohan confirms it all, explaining Belis Barony is a desperately poor land. He reveals their land has lacked a proper military for an entire year, making it impossible to respond. His father, unable to endure, led their small force against the bandits. The battle? A tragic loss, many lives gone, his father gravely wounded and bedridden. Baron Rohan concludes by taking the blame himself, believing his own incompetence brought suffering to his father and their people. Karen slams down the liquor bottle, startling Baron. He passionately declares that those who cause such suffering deserve violent retribution. But Karen then looks deep in thought, processing everything. Something doesn't add up for him. How can weak bandits stand against a regular army? He suggests they might be deserters from the Southern Kingdom's war, carefully considering this theory. Karen understands the Imperial Army's focus on the Southern War creates public order issues in the North. He assesses the deserter theory as the most plausible, and Baron agrees. With a wink, Karen then offers Baron a drink, suggesting it'll lighten the mood. Baron thoughtfully accepts. As liquor pours into a glass, Karen explains that Belis Barony borders his father's territory. This is a situation he just can't overlook. Holding his drink, Karen offers to personally go and help. Baron thanks him, but internally wonders if he should really drink liquor from a child. Karen then reveals the liquor is from Sir Zeres' collection, asking Baron to keep it a secret. He reminds Baron of their agreement about his liquor. Baron clarifies, Sir Zeres, the commander of the Haerang Knights? Suddenly, Zeres himself arrives, scolding Karen for touching his liquor. Both Karen and Baron are completely surprised. Zeres quickly apologizes for his discourtesy to Karen. Baron reassures him, saying the young Baron couldn't have known. Zeres asks Baron about the bandits troubling his barony, and Baron confirms his worries. Baron earnestly requests the Haerang Knights direct help, explaining this is exactly why he came to Chonghai Castle. Zeres begins to respond, but then Zeres scolds Karen, telling him alcohol isn't good for his age. Karen looks startled, sloshing his drink. Zeres turns to apologize to Karen for the unsightly scene. Baron holds up a hand, dismissing the apology, saying it's fine. Zeres welcomes Baron, assuring him Chonghai Castle won't ignore an old companion's hardship. Baron shows his gratitude, calling the news truly welcome. He assures Baron that troops will soon be dispatched to Belis Barony. Baron gratefully expresses his thanks, gesturing, relieved he can now bring good news back to his people. But then Karen asks Sir Zeres to let him go. Zeres objects, expressing concern about the enemy's strength, seeing them as a trained group potentially hiding experts. Baron, however, internally questions if Zeres is serious about helping. After all, the person in question, despite his training, looks to be only 12 or 13 years old. Zeres, his expression stern, acknowledges the individual's incredible progress. 4-star magic and the 4th form of the Haerang sword style in just 3 years. But he quickly reminds everyone that real battle is a completely different beast. Karen, calm and thoughtful, counters Zeras. He argues that overprotection isn't beneficial and suggests sending the person west. Why? Because, he says, a visible danger is always better than an unseen one. But Zeras emphatically refuses. He won't allow them to risk fighting enemies of unknown size, strength, or base. Karen, ever so calm, simply asks, "Is that so?" Then, a sly smirk crosses Karen's face. He confidently addresses Zeras, proposing an offer he believes they simply cannot refuse. Zeras and Baron react with visible shock and confusion. One of them even questions what Karen just said. Even Leo gazes forward in stunned disbelief, asking why. Karen excitedly leans towards Luro. "It's thrilling," he declares. "This is our first mission." Zeras, serious and astute, quickly realizes they've been tricked. He critically observes the situation, understanding that Lady Sabina has been put forward. A thoughtful expression crosses his face as he considers a reliable guardian will now accompany them. Lady Sabina, too, shares her excitement for her first mission. Zeras is deep in thought. He believes accepting Leo's conditions signals their satisfaction with the training results. Meanwhile, Baron intently observes Lady Sabina, focusing on the extraordinary power now accompanying them. Baron questions if Leo and Karen are truly sufficient. Karen is buzzing with excitement, but Leo remains silent. Baron worries about the Duke of Halo's grandsons, fearing his house will be held responsible if they're seriously hurt. But Zeras confidently declares the young Baron's fears will not come true. Baron respectfully addresses him as Sir Zeras. Zeras reassures him. Leo and Karen will be safe with Lady Sabina and Baron. But then, Lady Sabina calls out to Zeras. She states she won't intervene unless the 2 children face mortal danger. Leo and Baron look equally worried at this declaration. Zeras expresses concern for the young dukes, but Lady Sabina counters, reminding him it's about more than that. Karen, ever observant, remarks that Lady Sabina truly is as bold as they say. Lady Sabina reveals there's a specific reason she can't step out to the front lines, and Zeras respectfully acknowledges her decision. On a busy train station platform, Lady Sabina announces that time has officially run out. Leo looks down intently at a distressed, recoiling individual who lets out a pained sound. Lady Sabina affectionately embraces Leo, reassuring him that feeling nervous is natural. He's flustered but still protests. With a gentle smile, she looks forward, telling Leo to see this mission as his chance. A chance to prove 3 years of hard work, to finally be recognized proudly as a Blue Wolf member. Leo's eyes widen. He's processing it. Becoming a Blue Wolf? Really? With his back mostly to us, Leo firmly declares his readiness. He's in. But then Karen questions him. "Do you always need a push?" Leo, defensive, tells him to be quiet. Inside the richly decorated train car, Karen playfully smiles at Leo. He asks about their designated spot, all while internally confirming his suspicions. Leo stays silent, lost in thought. Karen intently considers. Leo will eventually need to prove himself, won't he? Suddenly, a formal announcement. The magic train is now departing Chonghai Castle, bound for Belis Barony. The sleek, golden-accented magic train begins its powerful journey. Karen, meanwhile, is still lost in thought. The train speeds along a green track, rapidly approaching a grand castle city in the distance. Look at that. As it races towards the city, the ground blurs past. He's surprised. How quickly are they reaching their destination? The magic train ascends a snowy mountain, winding through dense pine forests. Suddenly, someone reacts with surprise to some confidential information. Inside a luxurious train car, Lady Sabina explains her presence in Chonghaesong is top secret. If word gets out, she warns, the bandits will simply vanish without a trace. So she asks, do they want the bandits to disappear too? Baron quickly agrees, addressing her respectfully as the White Empress. But Baron is deeply concerned. Is it really okay, he asks, to entrust this mission to just 2 children? He wonders internally if this is truly Karen's first mission. Meanwhile, Leo stands silently, lost in thought, as Baron watches him, internally noting that someone worries a little too much. Wait, Leo himself, with a serious expression, internally wonders if he even knows how to think. Suddenly, Leo's mother sternly confronts him, questioning his closeness with Karen. Have you forgotten what happened 3 years ago? She demands, as Leo looks away uncomfortably. She reminds Leo that Karen is his rival. How can he joke with someone who disgraced him and his father 3 years ago? Looking up slightly with a firm expression, she intensely demands a response, criticizing his lack of drive. Leo looks down, conflicted. He apologizes to his mother, clarifying that he and Karen are not rivals. His mother exclaims in strong disbelief. Leo explains Karen reached the 4th star at 13, a feat even his genius brother Hugo only achieved at 14. Leo himself only hit 3 stars at 15. Do you understand the significant difference? He asks. Leo looks down in thought, explaining Karen might be his goal. But his mother emphatically declares, Karen can never be his rival. Frustrated, his mother strongly tells Leo to overcome his inferiority complex. But Leo assertively pushes back, telling her his feelings are not an inferiority complex. Leo reflects on Karen's existence, passionately stating it's the driving force for him to work harder and move forward. Facing away, her breath visible in the cold, she begins to speak, expressing her exasperation. He's staring at the tree, she says, but completely missing the forest. But Leo listens intently, his expression serious. Just then, Lady Sabina calls out Leo's name, demanding his full attention. Leo, visibly startled, quickly responds. She calmly asks if he finds it difficult to overcome his nervousness. Leo, looking anxious, admits his nervousness. But Lady Sabina, standing calmly beside him, reassures him it's understandable for a first mission. She then looks forward, asking if he could actually bring himself to cut someone down. She then claims Karen is the type to betray others to save himself. Leo reacts with a questioning sound. Lady Sabina gently reminds Leo not to doubt himself. She knows better than anyone just how hard he's worked these past 3 years. I'm the one who trained you, aren't I? She clarifies, and Leo affirms it. A voice announces the train will arrive at Baron Bella's territory in 20 minutes. Lady Sabina stands, declaring they'll now address each other as master and disciple. Leo agrees. But wait, Baron asks her. Where are you going? Lady Sabina walks towards the window, planning to leave the moving train. She explains she'll move out first to avoid spreading word. Baron can only stammer. But the moving train. Lady Sabina confidently looks back. Call me by my new name, she instructs, as Baron reacts in pure shock. Karen watches on with amusement, remarking on his master's continued boldness. She assures him her grandnephews will watch from nearby. Don't worry, she tells them. Baron just watches, a worried expression on his face. Then, Lady Sabina violently lunges forward. Baron is shocked, recoiling with raised hands, calling out her name. Baron flinches back in disbelief and fear, again calling out her name in shock. Karen, meanwhile, watches with an unsettling smile. Both Leo and Baron react with extreme shock and wide-eyed distress. Baron wonders, what is happening right now? The ornate train car speeds through a stark, snowy mountain landscape. Baron wonders why everyone in House Reston behaves in such a manner. An elderly man then coughs painfully. It's Baron's father, appearing quite weak. He explains his poor health means he must receive the young wolves of House Reston while sitting. But Karen dismisses his apology, asking instead about his lord's wounds. The old man says the danger has passed, thanking Karen for his concern. He then asks Karen if he remembers meeting his father 10 years ago. He compliments Karen's growth, stating his lord must be proud. Karen smiles slightly, admitting etiquette makes him uncomfortable. Baron's father then offers to call him young Lord Karen for a more casual address. Karen accepts this, confirming it will indeed put him more at ease. Baron's father praises Karen for reaching the 4th star of the Zihi style at such a young age, especially on his first mission. Karen affirms his achievement, but mentions his cousin Leo is still at 3 stars. Baron's father chuckles. He can't believe the main family thinks so highly of them to dispatch them here. Leo expresses wide-eyed surprise. The old man, looking thoughtful, hesitates to assign such a dangerous task to these 2 promising young men. But then, Leo confidently addresses the old man, acknowledging his concern. He declares that failing their mission would disgrace the Blue Wolves' honor, and they have no intention of doing that. He turns to Leo, seeking his agreement. Leo looks surprised, prompting him to firmly reassert their unwavering commitment to the mission. The Baron's father chuckles, thanking them for their words, while the Baron himself shows concern for his dad. Karen sees it too, telling the Baron's father he needs rest and suggests they leave. But the father insists he's entrusting something to Karen. The Baron informs his father a guide is already prepared, and Karen confidently agrees to the instructions. As their journey begins, the environment rapidly shifts. It's now a cold, challenging landscape of snow-capped mountains and pine forests. Mid-journey, Leo calls out, asking Karen if he's already tired. Leo then questions if they can truly trust this herbalist, and Karen turns, questioning his remark. Leo voices his suspicions about the local guide, thinking even a skilled one could be allied with bandits. Karen smirks back, asking playfully, "Are you finally using your intellect?" Karen firmly agrees, concluding the guide is likely part of the bandit crew. Leo reacts with surprise. "How did you know that so quickly?" Karen reveals he learned it from his conversation with the young Baron when they arrived at the station. Leo is completely surprised, demanding to know about this conversation. Karen explains, recalling how he asked young Baron Rohan about tracking down the bandit hideout. The Baron's plan? Use a traitor from within the domain. Karen repeats the idea. A traitor? Leo suddenly realizes. That's an excellent method. Karen finishes explaining the plan, and Leo throws his hands up in frustration, demanding why Karen didn't share this. Karen explains he was nervous all day. That's why he didn't share it. But then, Leo looks down worriedly, contemplating the young Baron's cunning choice to use a traitor. Karen confirms this, pointing out the lack of punishment for the traitor proves the Baron's intention all along. He deduces their enemies must be desperate. This makes them the bait, a perfect setup for noble sons traveling through the barony. Karen acknowledges the danger. They're about to be ambushed, ready to be caught. Then, a sudden, powerful event marks the start of the ambush. He expects to be suddenly surrounded by diverse attackers in these snowy woods. The attacker's leader smiles sinisterly, congratulating Sven on their success, adding he's made the plan even better for the noble targets. Sven thanks him gratefully. But then, a kidnapper points, warning his boss. These noble targets might not surrender easily. Alright, so what's Karen's attitude going into this fight? With a determined smirk spreading across his face, he immediately declares these attackers are nothing but vermin. He stands absolutely ready, his sword already positioned right behind him, prepared for anything. In the quiet Bellis barony, a persistent cough echoes. Rohan, holding a cup, reaches out to his father, asking, "Are you alright, father?" His father reassures him, saying he's fine, but Rohan still offers water, which his father accepts with thanks. Rohan quietly watches, seeing his father remains unwell and visibly downcast. He asks if the two young dukes will be alright. His father muses thoughtfully about sending them off to their domain without proper information on the bandits. He adds that this lack of information only proves Blue Sea Castle's confidence in the boy's abilities. Father then mentions Karen by name, noting how he reminds him of young Duke Halo, possessing a confident demeanor and a relaxed, magnanimous attitude. He concludes, it would be alright to have expectations for the two boys, and Rohan agrees. The scene shifts to a desolate, snow-covered landscape. But it's no longer just snow, fresh blood spatters and streaks now cover the ground. Sounds of impact and rapid movement erupt. Karen is a whirlwind of furious sword attacks, blood splattering wildly as his glowing blue eyes lock onto his targets with fierce determination. He's engaged in chaotic close-quarters combat against multiple enemies, blood flying everywhere, while Leo stands nearby watching. A severely injured, defeated man collapses onto the blood-splattered ground, gasping. He's monstrous. A powerful attack slashes across the dark scene, causing more blood to splatter. Karen aggressively attacks with his sword, as two individuals react with terror and pain. Leo's eyes widen in shock and fear. He too thinks Karen is a monster. A bald man clutches his chest, groaning in pain, blood staining his armor as he reels from the impact. Still injured, he urgently tells his companion these opponents are not ordinary, suggesting they retreat to inform the main unit. But the deserter leader clenches his jaw, his eyes glowing with anger as he curses their dire situation. He refuses to be defeated. With a lunge, axes in hand, he declares he will show his strength. He rages furiously, his eyes glowing as a powerful force surrounds him and expands. Karen, however, simply thinks his opponent is ridiculously loud. With another aggressive slash, Karen cuts down the deserter leader, who is visibly injured and groaning from the impact. Leo looks on, intently surprised to realize he had drawn Silpid. Karen stands victorious amidst the defeated enemies, glancing down at his blood-splattered clothes and remarking they are dirty. Leo stares at the blood-soaked battlefield, strewn with numerous fallen foes, his face showing deep concern as he ponders Karen and other aspects of the situation. Blood splatters cover the ground, a chilling testament to the power just unleashed. Leo, gripped by fear, feels Karen's blade about to slit his throat. The deserters, panicked and distressed, desperately cry out their surrender. Karen begins the interrogation, asking one of the defeated for his name. Erhin, he nervously confirms. A slight smirk plays on Karen's face as he then asks, "Do you have a rope?" Erhin eagerly affirms he does, and Karen orders it brought over. The enemy, surprised and confused, quickly complies. Soon, Karen and Leo's hands are bound tightly with thick rope. Leo looks at Karen with concern, questioning if they truly have to go to such extreme measures. He understands the need to tie up the enemy, but still implies disagreement. Leo even asks why the enemy is still carrying their weapons. The enemy looks distressed, silently considering his discomfort. But Karen had already told Leo their daring plan. They need to act as convincing bait to find the enemy base. Now Karen and Leo, still tied up, are led through a dense forest. One of the deserters questions if their group looks like they're just walking around with their weapons. The deserter escorting them explains this setup will make it seem Karen and Leo have been captured. He adds it would be illogical for youths to capture them otherwise, subtly expressing disdain for how they might be perceived, which makes the deserter groan in frustration. The group plans to gather more information from their captive. Karen calls out to Erhin, startling the deserter, who looks back. Erhin eagerly and flusteredly affirms. Karen asks if they are deserters, and Erhin confirms they are from the kingdom of CEAs. Leo considers this confession, linking it to the war happening in the south. Karen then questions Erhin about his group's size. Erhin explains his group numbers 130, including a mage and 2 knight escorts. Karen questions the mention of a mage, and Erhin affirms it. Karen expresses his surprise regarding the 130 deserters, a number Erhin confirms. Suddenly, the deserter realizes his mistake. He'd underestimated his captives, thinking them common nobles, and recalls the blue glowing eyes from before. Just then, Karen's eyes glow an intense blue. The deserter exclaims, "A mage!" The truth hits him. These captured individuals are the children of the House of Reston, the very heart of the Oria's empire. He curses their situation. Karen then looks at the deserter, questioning why, even as deserters, they've come to this remote northern region. The deserter starts to answer with hesitation. He explains their commander promised them enough money to live a life of leisure. Karen observes him. Then, he presses further. Why would a mere infantry commander have high-level personnel like a mage? Karen's mind races, deep in analysis. Why would bandits, searching for money, operate in a poor place like the Bellis Barony? It just doesn't make sense to him. The deserter points ahead, claiming their destination is just there. The group pushes deeper into the forest. Karen, still suspicious, plans to confirm everything once he sees the location firsthand. From a watchtower, a deserter spots Erhin leading Karen and Leo towards a wooden gate. He questions Erhin about bringing hostages, but Erhin quickly brushes him off. The deserter then asks why Erhin is alone and about the weapon he's carrying. Standing at the gate, Erhin grips the rope binding Karen and Leo. He aggressively declares the weapon he carries is his, warning anyone not to interfere. Still holding his hostages, Erhin explains their comrades are currently chasing down the fleeing guards of the noble brats. Erhin demands the main gate open now. The first deserter urges haste, but another deserter just looks annoyed. Someone asks if they're excited for praise from the boss, but Erhin remains silent. A deserter voices his frustration to Erhin about the delay in bringing back the hostages. A bald, padded swordsman sternly tells a blonde armored man to keep quiet. Karen, alongside Leo, notes someone seems surprisingly soft for a thief. Then Karen falls into silent reflection. He questions a mysterious force he's feeling. A persistent unease washes over them, growing stronger as Karen's weapon, guillotine, reacts. What could this even be? Leo voices concern for Karen, who responds with a mix of surprise and confusion. Then ahead, they see it, a raven, impaled on multiple stakes, hanging from a wooden structure, blood dripping down. Erhin instantly realizes this strung-up bird is a sacrifice. The grave significance of the situation is immediately apparent. A large magical symbol now glows with a fiery red aura. Karen, his face now enraged, declares this is black magic. He He challenges anyone who dares to spread narcotics within his father's domain. Our scene opens with Erhin, Karen, and Leo standing on a mysterious runic circle. Energy tendrils immediately begin to rise around them. Erhin looks absolutely alarmed as Karen screams at him to get his sword and cut some ropes, while Leo is just completely confused. Karen doesn't wait, urgently drawing his own sword and telling Leo, "Draw Sylphid." Erhin glances back in shock, and Leo is still totally baffled as intense energy swirls all around them. Karen holds his drawn blade, warning Leo he'll need it very soon. "What do you mean?" Leo asks, his confusion clear. Then, chaos erupts. A terrifying skeletal scythe appears, striking with its massive scythe right amidst all that swirling energy. Erhin screams in terror, recoiling from the powerful blow, while Leo watches, utterly shocked. An overhead view quickly reveals the source of the chaos. Numerous summoned skeletal warriors are now forming inside a glowing magic circle. But Erhin isn't backing down, standing defiantly with his club. Someone comments, "A hostage walked in on their own? What a blessing." We then see 4 figures kneeling in formation on a tiled rooftop, bows drawn and aimed, as a voice welcomes everyone to its mountain stronghold. Karen stands in a courtyard, looking up with fierce determination at a white fur man and a headband archer on a balcony above. The commander glares down, sneering, and calls them precious little noble brats. Karen reports that the black wizard hasn't been found, leading them to speculate he's hiding to chant a spell. Karen holds his large sword defensively, remarking, "These creepy types are still present." Erhin and Leo stand cautiously behind him. Suddenly, Karen moves fast, taking Erhin hostage. He presses his sword to Erhin's throat, warning the enemy not to attack. Erhin stands there with his own drawn sword, looking completely conflicted, while Leo watches on with deep concern. Leo, utterly shocked and distressed, questions, "Honor?" The commander looks serious, immediately questioning the idea of nobles taking hostages. He pushes further. "Are you not a people who value honor above all?" Karen, quick-witted, retorts, "Cannot we disregard honor?" Erhin looks absolutely shocked and distressed by this exchange. A smirking fur-collar man dismisses their argument entirely, stating simply, "A hostage without value is meaningless." Karen breathes heavily, still holding Erhin captive. The commander then ruthlessly declares Erhin completely useless and utterly worthless. Karen frantically apologizes, while a bowl-cut armored man watches fearfully. Leo tells Karen, "We're outnumbered. Do you have a plan?" As a red skull swordsman and countless skeletal warriors now completely surround them. But Karen just confidently smiles at Leo, reassuring him. "I have a plan." With a determined expression, Karen declares their plan. "Take down the enemy commander." He stands poised with his sword, radiating immense power, clearly preparing for combat. Karen's eye glows intensely, and as he activates his ability, a powerful magical phenomenon immediately begins. The commander reacts with disbelief, questioning, "Is that blue mana?" Karen stands confidently with his sword, telling Leo, "I'll handle the skeletons." Leo stares, completely shocked. "What's going on?" he demands, seeking an explanation. Karen, meanwhile, is engulfed in an intense blue aura, glaring intently, his sword gripped tight and ready for battle. "I'll handle the commander myself," Karen declares, unleashing a powerful force that rapidly expands around him. With incredible speed, Karen lunges forward, directly engaging the enemy, moving with swift, decisive strikes. As Karen continues his rapid advance, Leo urgently calls out his name. Suddenly, an axe skeleton lunges, but Leo expertly parries the devastating strike with his sword. A sharp metallic clang echoes as Leo's sword meets the enemy's weapon with immense force. Leo intensely contemplates the chaos, questioning Karen's impulsive actions. How can Karen fight so many skeleton soldiers all by himself? A huge formation of magically empowered skeleton soldiers rapidly advances across the chaotic battlefield. The commander barks, "Fire," to his troops, but Karen stands ready. He intensely gazes, then unleashes a powerful attack, declaring, "It's too late." His attack sweeps across, violently impacting the archers. They cry out in pain, thrown into total disarray. This powerful force continues its path, tearing through surrounding structures. The commander watches, stunned, from a distance. Karen lunges forward, sword raised. The commander curses and braces himself. Karen attacks, his sword a blur, calmly calling the commander a nuisance. A powerful strike connects directly with the commander. He's severely injured, sent reeling backward. A scream of pain rips from him. Karen stands victoriously, sword still in hand, looking down at the defeated commander. He tells the commander, still on the ground, "You should have attacked faster." The injured commander struggles to speak, angrily cursing Karen. He demands to know why Azure Sea Fortress is involved, questioning how they have strength for other territories. Karen explains the barony's location is right next to his father's territory. Confidently, Karen states he won't kill him. Instead, he'll drag him back to Azure Sea Fortress. Leo looks on, surprised. Karen comments to Leo, "You're not bad at all." He urges Leo to crush the enemies head-on with sheer strength, even as archers aim directly at Leo. The commander confronts Karen. "Do you expect to leave safely?" Karen simply asks his name. Looking up, the commander identifies himself as Michael Knox. Karen stabs Michael Knox with his sword. Michael looks surprised, in pain as blood sprays out. Michael screams in agony, blood splattering all around him. Karen's hand remains firmly gripping his sword's hilt. Karen forcefully commands Michael, "Order your men to disarm." Michael urgently orders his men to quickly dump their weapons. Karen expresses satisfaction with Michael's obedience. Michael lets out another sharp, pained sound. Still in pain, Michael looks up, contemplating their total defeat to Karen and Leo. He believes his reinforcements are coming, confident that even a member of House Reston won't stand a chance. But Karen sees right through it, stating his opponent is still clinging to something. "Are you counting on black wizards?" he asks Michael directly. "Do you really think our family would only send 2 people?" Suddenly, Leo notices. The magic circle is gone. Then a powerful burst of energy violently erupts, tearing through the surroundings with a devastating impact. Leo reacts in surprise, realizing they must have a guardian here. The landscape is left in utter ruin from the blast. Debris flies and smoke billows into the air. Karen, annoyed, complains they've wasted time and failed to capture the Black Wizard. Just then, Sabina walks in, casually carrying a severed head. Her gaze is intense, fixed straight ahead. Urhin is shocked by the Black Wizard's head. Leo calls out to Sabina, who coolly addresses Karen and Leo by name. Sabina declares their mission a failure for missing crucial evidence, much to Karen's frustration. Karen asks if she approves of this method as Michael groans in pain nearby. Sabina remarks that Michael is charging straight into the enemy's jaws, just like his elder brother did. She gives him a twisted compliment. His fighting style is fitting for a House Reston member. Then, she throws the severed head right onto the ground in front of Michael. Next, Sabina tells Karen to pull a hostage stunt. Karen, holding his sword casually, warns the man that a sudden hostage act will be penalized. He explains his unexpected plan to take hostages, and Sabina agrees with Karen's earlier statement. With amusement, Sabina calls Karen a lunatic, approving of his strategy. Karen simply thanks her. Michael, still distressed, thinks his opponents are absolute lunatics. Are they truly nobles? Karen stands, sword resting at his hip. Sabina then orders them to return to Lord Bellis's castle. She has many questions. Fur Jacket Man, despite his earlier distress, now looks down at Brown Jacket Man and Shaggy White Man, defeated and lying on the snowy ground. Shaggy White Man looks up, affirming his master's order. Michael can only conclude, the Reston people are completely insane. Someone calls out, asking another to come closer. A man steps through a doorway, immediately calling out for Isabel. A child cries out to their father. The man apologizes, his voice heavy with regret for not protecting her. A red shirt, now crying, embraces and comforts the red-hair boy, as the child tells her dad just how scared she was. Meanwhile, Urhin and Karen watch the emotional scene unfold from a distance. Karen turns to Urhin, asking if he feels guilty. Urhin looks distressed, his reply hesitant. Karen stands beside him, a smirk playing on his lips, declaring it's far too early for such a feeling. He even suggests that prison might have been a better outcome for them, and Urhin reacts with clear surprise to this statement. Guards declare that Urhin and his boss are heading straight to Azure Sea Fortress. Tied with other prisoners, Michael lets out a pained sound, while Urhin immediately questions why he must also go. Sabina then asks Karen if it's acceptable for Urhin to remain untied, as Michael silently observes their conversation. Karen confirms Urhin can remain untied, explaining they need his help to transport Michael, who's too injured to walk, all the way to Azure Sea Fortress. Karen instructs Urhin not to let his guard down, emphasizing his words with a pointed gesture, and Erhin respectfully accepts the advice. A man steps forward, asking Karen if Erhin will also face punishment. Karen confirms that, yes, Erhin was indeed a bandit. But another man quickly defends him, explaining how Erhin took incredible care of them while they were imprisoned. He secretly brought medicine to the sick and even gave his own food to the starving. The man continues to plead for mercy for Erhin. Sabina then asks Karen for his opinion, and he appears thoughtful, considering the heartfelt plea. After a moment, Karen decides to at least consider leniency for now. Sabina and Erhin watch his response intently, and Erhin looks forward, a surprised expression on his face. Karen adds that Erhin also helped guide them to the hideout. Erhin immediately declares his lifelong loyal service to Karen. Karen, however, tells him again not to let his guard down. From behind, on a balcony, Leo calls out to Karen, telling him to look at something specific in the room below. Karen asks what's happening, and Leo simply reiterates for him to look. Karen and Leo observe a room filled with wooden barrels, but one barrel stands out, emitting a mysterious blue glow. Karen exclaims loudly at this discovery. Inside, crystalline rocks emit a powerful, bright light. Karen stares at the glowing rock and exclaims, "It's a magic stone." Meanwhile, villagers declare the filthy bandits deserve their grim fate. Leo asks Karen if the young baron would likely host a banquet to celebrate their efforts. A diverse crowd gathers, with Leo walking among them, and Karen and Sabina visible from behind. Leo then asks Karen if he was even listening. Karen, deep in thought, realizes this explains why such a large bandit group was hiding in the remote mountains of the insignificant barony of Bellis. He continues to contemplate, realizing the baron's family was likely completely unaware of the magic stone mine hidden right in their own territory. Karen's face suddenly twists into a sinister grin, his eyes glowing red with a predatory gaze. He's thinking a mine alone means huge profit, and Leo can't help but feel uneasy. Leo, concerned and confused, immediately questions Karen's true intentions. He sees that sinister grin and those glowing red eyes, asking Karen, "What are you scheming now?" Suddenly, Sabina announces the young baron has arrived to greet them, catching Leo completely by surprise. Rohan welcomes everyone with open arms as guards hold torches, lighting their path. A guard gestures, ordering the prisoners to be locked in the dungeon. Sabina then asks the young baron for permission to take Michael and Erhin, the bandits. Rohan accepts. Rohan then turns to Sabina, stating he has a request for her. But Sabina quickly replies she's just a guardian, telling them to speak with her students instead. Rohan suggests they eat and talk at a prepared banquet. Karen, however, immediately cuts in. They need to go to Azure Sea Fortress right now, and they need to talk immediately. Rohan explains their territory can't pay the Azure Sea Fortress commission fee and requests a deferral. Leo looks concerned, that unsettling gaze still fresh in his mind. Karen then wonders why the bandits chose to settle in Bellis Barony. Rohan looks confused, asking what he means. Karen explains Bellis Barony is a remote area with no local specialties. Rohan starts to sweat, clenching his jaw, trying to control his reaction. Karen then offers Rohan a magic stone. Rohan looks surprised, immediately understanding the implication. Holding up a glowing blue magic stone, Karen asks Rohan if he was aware of such stones. Rohan expresses pure surprise. He had no idea there was a magic stone mine in their territory, all while Karen watches with a slight, knowing smile. Karen continues, stating he wants to make a proposal. Rohan, with a questioning tone, asks Karen about this proposal. Karen smiles, extending a hand as he proposes a joint mine development with Azure Sea Fortress. He then specifies the conditions for this joint venture. Azure Sea Fortress must provide the initial capital and all security forces. Rohan stares blankly, sweating, completely speechless for a moment. He thinks in disbelief. Does Karen even understand his own proposal? Rohan closes his eyes, thinking deeply about the high costs just to store and guard such a mine. But then he reevaluates. An alliance with the Reston family for this mine? It could greatly benefit them. As Karen holds the magic stone, Rohan believes Karen has already calculated all the implications of his audacious proposal. Karen confidently explains his proposition, but Rohan secretly wonders, how does Karen think he can negotiate such a significant deal all by himself? Karen lays out his plan. If the project goes through, the Harang Knights could station directly at the mine. He believes this move would boost their economy and solve crucial defense issues. Rohan listens intently, then wonders aloud what share the Duke's house would demand. Karen, confidently, states that the actual business matters need discussion with his father. Sabina just listens, her expression composed. Karen smiles dismissively, admitting he's not qualified to discuss the finer details of business. Rohan smiles back, stating he'll also discuss the matter with his own father, as guards stand attentively. Karen promises to be in contact soon. Sabina, though? She frowns, letting out an exasperated sound. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a detailed night cityscape. Karen immediately presses Sabina, asking why he mentioned complications at the bandits' hideout. Sabina acknowledges the question. Did she cause these complications, Karen asks. Sabina holds a small bag in her left hand. Leo jumps in, asking if she means the dark mage she defeated. No, Sabina corrects him. The dark mage wasn't just any ordinary dark mage. Karen demands further clarification. She drops the bombshell. It was Ted Delaharta, a Class 2 wanted criminal and a 6th Circle dark mage. Karen reacts with utter disbelief. Sabina confirms it. A Class 2 criminal who operated with Southern Kingdom deserters. She then admonishes them, asking how they could miss such an important detail while focusing on lesser threats. People only grow stronger, she states, by fighting powerful opponents. She criticizes them further, explaining they wouldn't have wasted time on lesser enemies if they had defeated the dark mage first. Sabina declares the mission a failure. She tells Karen to remember her words. Leo obediently accepts her judgment, feeling totally overlooked and excluded from the recent conversation. Sabina then calls out to Brown Eye Armored by his name. She then turns to Leo, telling him he actually did better than she expected. Was it his first time facing undead? She asks. Sabina tells Leo to have more confidence in himself. A sparkling dust marks a swift transition from dark to light. Now, the magnificent Azure Sea Fortress stands illuminated by the full moon at night. From below, someone announces the Lord's return. Heinrich welcomes Halo back to the castle. Has anything unusual happened? Halo asks. Heinrich confirms the Western Knights have returned. Leo and Karen are also on their way back from the Bellis Barony with Lady Sabina. Heinrich adds, and Halo understands. Suddenly, a man rushes forward, urgently calling out to Halo. What's all the commotion? Halo asks. The man quickly presents a rolled scroll. It's a letter, he announces, from the Imperial Palace. Halo reaches out, a look of surprise crossing his face. Halo holds the scroll, deep in thought about its sudden, unexpected arrival. He can't help but recall the Emperor's odd silence just before leaving the capital. What's inside this mysterious letter? Halo's face instantly twists in shock and disbelief, a surprised exclamation escaping him as he reads its incredible contents. Meanwhile, a train rapidly pulls away, speeding its way directly towards the castle. Halo quickly puts it all together. The Emperor has personally invited Karen to the capital. And what about Karen? He sits pensively, his hand resting firmly on his sword. A train speeds through the night as we see Erhan, carrying Michael slung over his shoulder. Erhan looks up with a surprised expression, remarking on the immense blue sea castle. Michael, still over Erhan's shoulder, frowns and questions if Erhan actually believes what they were told. He warns Erhan that he'll soon be imprisoned as well, so they need to find a moment when the guards are distracted to make their escape. Suddenly, Erhan punches Michael right in the face. Erhan expresses his disbelief at someone calling him useless, while Leo wonders what's wrong with him. Erhan then warns Michael he'll get another beating if he keeps talking. Elsewhere, the butler stands formally smiling as Karen and Pale greet him. Karen calls for his father, and Sabin, mentioning Pale's elder brother, summons him. Pale smiles and pats Karen's head, who smiles back. Sabin comments on Karen's troublesome actions in Baron Bellis's domain, noting she seems pleased. Leo bows deeply, greeting his uncle and asking how he's been. Pale smiles, mentioning Leo's distinguished actions in Baron's lands, saying he'd heard all about them. Leo looks flustered, smiling nervously as he brings a hand to his neck. He confirms their elder brother must have heard and would be delighted. Leo then asks if he's tired and should head up now. Sabin asks Pale if he knows anything about the Empire's unstable situation. Pale gives a brief reply. He looks down pensively, explaining that other powerful families are quickly uniting. Sabin listens attentively. Pale continues, explaining this alliance centers around Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz. Pale explains his father's plan to meet families in the capital didn't go as intended, and Sabin reacts with surprise. Grimly, Pale explains his father canceled his plans because even talks with the Emperor didn't bring satisfactory results. We see a grand, empty throne in an opulent chamber. Duke Salmon and Marquis Diaz, the powerful men who overthrew the tyrant emperor and placed the current one on the throne, now hold the real power in the realm. Sabin explains her brother stepped back from central authority after the tyrant's fall, believing he acted for the empire's future, but now faces betrayal. Sabin notes to Pale that the age of peace is coming to an end. Pale states their family must now take action. Sabin discusses how Pale's son's actions might bring them great benefit. This would allow them to station troops in other families' lands and expand their influence. Sabin remarks that Pale's son is quite interesting, commenting on the precise timing of Karen's advantageous actions for the family. Pale bashfully denies her compliments, but Sabin says she isn't truly praising him. Zeres congratulates the group. Karen smirks confidently. Zeres speaks, mentioning he heard of their exploits. He continues, stating they crushed a bandit gang formed of deserters. Erhan carries the unconscious bandit leader, Michael, as Zeres plans a serious interrogation. Zeres assures Karen he'll extract every bit of information. A knight asks who's carrying Michael, pointing him out. Karen then orders them to take Erhan along, much to Erhan's surprise. Erhan vocalizes his shock at the Lord's command. Karen clarifies that Erhan is just an informant, to be treated lightly and then released. But wait, Karen then considers using him as a personal servant instead. The knights acknowledge the instructions. Karen and Leo agree it's time to head inside and rest. But Zeres firmly rejects resting, stating their mission is far from complete. He instructs them to file a mission report, explaining it will help reassess their work and improve future performance. Karen asks if they both need separate reports. Zeres allows them to write it together. Karen then declares he did all the hard work, so Leo can handle the report instead. Leo looks totally surprised. Leo suggests it would be faster if they wrote it together. Karen puts an arm around Leo, reminding him their uncle will also read this report. Leo makes a questioning sound. Karen tells him this is his chance to earn their uncle's favor. Is it true? Leo asks. Karen explains that too much credit for him would actually have the opposite effect. Meanwhile, Zeres orders Hans to lock the prisoners in cells, and Hans confirms. Suddenly, Sabin tosses a bag containing a severed head towards Zeres, instructing her to handle the wanted man's head. Zeres reacts with clear surprise. Sabin then instructs Zeres that their report should be submitted under the subordinates' names. Leo just stands there blankly. Karen wishes Leo good luck. Leo asks Karen where he's going. Karen replies he's off to the Ether Training Hall, now able to use it independently after reaching the 4th star. Zeres notes Karen heading straight to training after his very first mission. It's hard to believe he's only 13, Zeres muses as Karen stands confidently, hands behind his head. Elsewhere, Halo explains he's called everyone together so late for a specific reason. He continues, stating the reason is due to information gained from fighting monsters appearing around Blue Sea Castle. Halo calls out for Heinrich, who affirms the command. Pale, Tails, and Rap Hale stand ready in the Grand Hall, present with Halo. Halo orders Heinrich to summon the Knight Captain, and Heinrich confirms the order. Zeres announces that the item requested for Halo has arrived. Halo leans forward, holding a red box. He explains it contains a piece of hide from a monster found in the Western Firmament Plains. Someone notes it looks ordinary at first glance. But Halo declares this is no ordinary force. Rap Hale, Tails, and Pale's eyes widen in shock. They realize this powerful dark energy is none other than the Tyrant Emperor's black ether. A blonde ponytail man watches on, a worried expression crossing his face. Pale questions this, reminding Halo, but the Tyrant Emperor has been dead for a long time. Halo considers the heavy possibility. Could this black ether be dwelling inside monsters? He vocalizes his deduction, explaining there are only 2 possibilities here. One, he suggests, is the tyrant's lingering will. And then, he hints at a terrifying second option. Halo declares his shocking conclusion. The Tyrant Emperor still lives. He makes this revelation, his gaze determined. He explains further, connecting these events directly to the Empire's current situation. He then adds that he has even more to say. Halo continues speaking, and the brothers listen intently, their expressions grave. Pale startles visibly as he receives news. The Emperor has summoned Karen to the capital. Halo stands confidently, arms crossed. He cannot send Karen to the Imperial Palace alone, he states. He announces he will send Leo and the Sea Wave Knights to accompany Karen. Pale reflects on the situation, but Halo decides he'll ask for Karen's opinion first. He addresses that he will not force Karen to go if Karen refuses. Tails expresses concern. This plan might cause problems. Halo notes it's fine, because he is still a child. Halo then states a more important matter needs discussion. He intends to learn the exact reasons behind the deal made with Baron Bellis's son. Halo asks Zeres to bring Karen. With Karen now surrounded by a powerful aura, Zeres quickly assures Halo of his command. Under a massive glowing blue moon, the night sky is absolutely serene. Leaves gently drift past a striking, angular building. And in this quiet stillness, we find Karen cross-legged on a mat, practically radiating powerful energy. While emanating this power, he asks Zeres when he arrived. Zeres calmly replies, "Not long ago." Karen reminds Zeres that only direct family and Zeres himself are allowed here, noting he doesn't remember Zeres entering the laboratory. He then asks if Zeres' visit is urgent, and Zeres looks up, surprised. Zeres declares that he'll likely need to head to the capital soon. Karen, with a questioning look, asks about this capital. Zeres explains the head of the family has summoned him to the family council, where he'll learn the details directly. Next, they walk down an ornate hallway towards a bright blue light as a servant opens a door, announcing, "Lord Karen has arrived." They're welcomed inside. Halo immediately asks if their first mission is complete, and Karen respectfully confirms it is. Halo then explains he's called Karen due to recent events in the barony of Bellis. He questions Karen about acting independently with the Bellis family, stating Karen doesn't yet have the right to represent their house in negotiations. Karen listens with a serious expression, clearly realizing this is a scolding. Halo sternly questions what he sees as arrogant behavior, calling it a grave discourtesy to the Bellis family. Karen responds directly to the head of the family. It was not. He assertively explains he only proposed one deal to the Bellis baronet, and the baronet willingly accepted his proposal. Karen states something more important outweighed formal noble etiquette, surprising Halo, who asks for clarification. Halo questions, what could be more important to a noble than courtesy? Then Karen, with a thoughtful expression, declares, the honor of the family is more important. Halo's face becomes serious and contemplative, a subtle aura forming around him. He knows Karen isn't boasting about this achievement, despite the deal's value. Karen is clearly prioritizing the family's benefit over his own. His expression shifts to approval. He states the tactic was excellent. On the other side, a family member watches intently. But Karen notices two individuals still watching each other cautiously, even as he keeps his gaze forward and Halo expresses his approval. Halo declares the deal brought great benefit to their house, then suggests Pale handle the negotiations. He proudly states a father could benefit from his son's achievements. Pale agrees with the head of the family, announcing his departure for the barony of Bellis at daybreak. The discussion then shifts to a letter from the Emperor, as Halo gently holds a chess piece. Halo reveals that His Majesty has summoned Karen, and word of his actions has already reached the capital. Karen looks down, deep in thought. How did the Emperor's letter arrive so quickly, even before Halo's return? Is the Emperor's intelligence network truly that extensive? He then considers the Emperor a mere puppet, likely controlled by a powerful network of noble factions. Meanwhile, Halo watches Karen, deep in his own thoughts. He then calls out, telling Karen he doesn't have to go if he doesn't wish to. Halo explains Karen must already understand the implications of heading to the capital right now. He ponders that noble houses in the capital will want to confirm Karen's true identity, suggesting it might be wiser to avoid the capital to prevent drawing attention. Pale looks up at his father, Halo, pondering why he's offering Karen a choice despite the Emperor's summons. But Karen enthusiastically states he will go. He's thinking he'll get to see his grandfather after a long while. With a concerned expression, Karen then asks if he'll be going alone, explaining that brother Leo also completed the mission with him. Halo calmly states that Leo will accompany him if he goes, and Hansa's squad will escort them both. Karen's eyes widen in surprise at this news. He expresses confusion, asking if an escort is truly necessary with his grandfather present. Halo clarifies that the escort isn't assigned because Karen is special. He assertively explains the escort is necessary because no one knows what trouble Karen might cause next. Karen responds with a respectful affirmative. Halo then commands them to leave, setting their departure for 3 days from now. Karen confirms the command. Under bright daylight, a grand, white stone building stands as Pale suggests the negotiation can now conclude. Below, a meeting table is visible as Pale expresses gratitude for everyone's efforts. Pale then asks Baron if their father is also aware of these terms. Baron subtly responds that their father is indeed aware and has already agreed. Pale then articulates the mine shares. 80% go to Reston and 20% to Bellis. Even this small share of the profitable magic crystal stones ensures considerable wealth. He expresses confusion about giving 5% of that 20% share to Karen and Leo. Are these terms unfavorable for the Bellis family? Pale acknowledges Karen and Leo performed an excellent job for Bellis, but considers a 5% share for a mere commission fee to be excessive. He questions if there must be a hidden reason for such a decision from a top Imperial Academy graduate. Is this reward truly too great for a mere commission fee? Baron reveals this generous offer is all about winning Karen and Leo's favor. Pale, seeing this, can't help but notice they're not even trying to hide their intentions. Leo looks completely surprised as Baron explains Bellis is investing, and it's for them, the future leaders of Azure Sea Fortress. Pale finds it absolutely shameless, this confidence in recognizing their promising talents, and simply asks, "Is that true?" He declares it a bold decision, saying his father is fortunate to have such an outstanding son. Yet, he then humbly states he isn't as brilliant as Lord Pale. Pale announces it's time to hear Leo and Karen's opinions. Karen just grins, a truly evil grin, leaving Leo to wonder what's going on. Pale accepts the agreement, expressing a desire to build a strong bond moving forward. Baron says it's an honor to work with such a great house. The scene shifts to an empty road and railway track, bathed in bright sunlight. This is it, the beginning of a brand new journey. A little later, Leo calls out to Karen, saying he has a question for him. How exactly will they split these shares they're receiving? Leo wants to know. Karen confidently proposes a 9-to-1 split, with him taking the larger portion. Leo looks absolutely shocked. Holding an item, Leo questions the massive amount of shares Karen's taking. Karen reacts with a startled question right back. But then Karen asks, how can he propose such a thing given their good relationship? Leo confirms, yes, he will indeed receive 9 shares. Karen sternly warns Leo about the consequences if he dares to change his mind later, and Leo reluctantly agrees. Pale, accompanied by another man, smiles contentedly. He remembers how these two used to constantly fight when they were younger. But now, despite all that history, they've become inseparable. A grand, ornate building shines under the night sky, and our hero can't believe it. They're heading to the capital. Leo, only knowing rumors, asks Karen what their plan is, but Karen simply tells him not to fuss. Inside a decorated room, Leo earnestly explains that it's natural to fuss about meeting the Emperor, and he thoughtfully agrees. Karen, surprised, asks for clarification. Leo enthusiastically asks if they'll hit up social parties too, mentioning all the beauties he's heard about. Karen, exasperated, reminds him he's not a child. Suddenly, Lady Sabina appears. Leo looks shocked to see her as she describes the capital as a fun place, full of strong people. Leo immediately questions how she got so high up. She then reveals this will be a very good experience for them. But wait, Lady Sabina is looking for wine goblets to celebrate their first mission. Karen quickly points out they're in a 13-year-old's room, so only water cups are available. Lady Sabina calmly holds up a cup, explaining that any vessel capable of holding wine will do. She then reveals Karen's daily wine consumption, asking Leo if he's ever had wine. Leo admits Karen has given him wine a few times, and Lady Sabina remarks that Karen has made him an accomplice. Karen confidently suggests they'd be better off getting scolded together. Lady Sabina pours a drink for Leo, telling him not to hesitate since she's his master. Leo hesitantly accepts. She tells them they've both grown splendidly, and Karen respectfully thanks his master. She then states that 3 years have passed since a promise made to an elder brother. She reveals her disappointment that she won't see the havoc they're about to cause in the capital. Leo clarifies if she's returning to the North Sea, asking if this means they won't see her again. But Lady Sabina teasingly questions Leo's sentimentality, saying she'll let him talk to women in the capital, prompting a surprised exclamation from him. She then warns Leo not to go to parties with Karen. Leo asks what she means by that. She explains that Karen's looks, talent, and silver tongue will cause problems. Upon hearing this, Leo reacts to his master's assessment of Karen's charming nature. Leo walks closer to Karen, confronting him not to ruin his marriage chances. Karen reacts, telling him not to imagine things too far. Karen then urges him to stop talking nonsense and just drink, which Leo agrees to. The scene then shifts to another grand, ornately decorated room. A desk sits in the foreground, bathed in a warm, golden light. At his desk, we see Halo drinking wine. Outside the grand room, his servant announces Pale's arrival to the Lord. Pale stands respectfully, asking if he was called. Halo simply states that the successful negotiations with Bellis are now concluded. He leans forward, outlining how shares will go to Karen, Leo, and Pale, highlighting the young Baron's significant influence on these very terms. This whole deal, he explains, is an investment for the future. Halo then remarks on Baron Bellis having a truly clever son. He agrees it's a good outcome, stating that a reliable ally is never a bad thing to have. Halo assigns Pale to handle all future Bellis matters. Pale confidently accepts, assuring his lord he won't disappoint. Halo hands him a prepared drink, which Pale gratefully accepts, thanking his lord. Holding the drink, Pale ponders his father's praise, suspecting a deeper reason for this summons, perhaps tied to Karen's capital trip. Then, Halo begins to speak. He reveals the Emperor has never directly summoned anyone but him. Karen's summons to the capital, Halo explains, is extremely unusual. Pale realizes this summons is about Karen. Halo describes observing the king's fearful gaze toward him again during a private audience. He understands the king's fear stems from the possibility he might overthrow him, just as he overthrew the evil emperor. He suggests another's influence likely plays a role in the king's actions. Pale asks if Halo believes the situation is political. Halo directly confirms it. He then explains the capital's political situation, noting powerful houses are rallying. He asks Pale why he didn't refuse the king's request. Pale remarks he still didn't refuse the request, and Halo confirms it. Pale asks for his reason, but Halo just laughs, repeating his own question. Halo then reveals his true intent: to evaluate Karen, completely surprising Pale. Karen, he explains, was chosen by the ancestors' sword guillotine, destined to stand at the family's core. As a Reston, he'll inevitably face scrutiny from external forces and endure countless threats. This, Halo firmly states, is precisely why he didn't refuse the king's request. Karen must endure these hardships to shoulder the house's future. Pale then takes a casual sip from his glass. He struggles to find the words, attempting to speak to his father, while Halo maintains a stern expression. Halo then announces he trusts in his Karen, giving a thoughtful, understanding gaze. He's satisfied with this answer. At sunrise, Lady Sabina stands by a white horse, looking at Zeres. He asks if she'll say goodbye to the two young masters separately, but she states it's fine. She explains she shared drinks and had a good time with them last night. Zeres internally thinks they drank his liquor dry. Lady Sabina adds they'll be busy leaving for the capital today, so it's better to leave quietly. Lady Sabina expresses her hope to meet Zeres again, and Zeres promises to keep her wine stocked until their next meeting. But wait, Lady Sabina's gaze shifts. Who's at the window? It's Karen, bowing respectfully to bid her farewell, and Lady Sabina smiles. She rides off on her horse, waving and smiling, knowing they'll meet again soon. Karen watches from the window, happy she's returning to the North Sea, a place she calls home. He thinks she's always welcome back, and he'll be waiting with good wine. Karen's expression then turns serious, contemplative, as he reads a letter. He laments her departure for the North Sea, with only this message in hand. A worried look crosses his face. With his master gone, he knows his uncles are likely to start making their moves. But then, a voice calls out for Karen. We get a close-up on Tail's serious face as he announces, "Your aunt has also departed." It's like he says, "Speak of the tiger," and it appears. A grand building stands tall under a bright sky as Zeres asks if the young master's luggage is loaded. Karen confirms to the head butler that all preparations are complete. Zeres then zeroes in on Leo's formal wear, prompting Karen to confirm everything is packed. He can't help but wonder, is all this fuss really necessary for their departure? Zeres explains this journey is crucial. The young masters will meet His Majesty as family representatives. Karen acknowledges the commander's point, but still has doubts. He questions why Hans's squad is joining them. Zeres clarifies their purpose is protection. But one of the Hans members quickly suggests it's more about them causing trouble, leading Karen to sharply order him to be silent. Karen looks visibly annoyed, muttering about many nuisances, while Leo wonders what's gotten into him. Then, Karen bows respectfully to Tails, greeting his uncle good morning. Tails returns the greeting, asking if Karen is off to the capital. Karen confirms their invitation from the Emperor himself. With a stern face and intense eyes, Tails calls out Karen's name, then asks for a favor. Karen affirms, and Tails tells him directly, "Don't behave in the capital like you do in Cheonghaisong." He emphasizes that Karen understands his meaning, no need to elaborate further. Karen acknowledges, realizing he's been under watch. Tails then sternly warns him, enemies in the capital want to tear their family apart. If Karen gives them any excuse, the consequences will be severe. He even threatens to punish Karen harshly himself, leaving Karen looking surprised and intimidated. Yet, Karen quickly smiles confidently, thanking his uncle for his wise words and promising to live up to his expectations. Tails turns around, telling Karen to return safe and sound. Karen confirms his uncle's instruction before departing. As Karen subtly watches Tails walk away down the hallway, he silently reflects. His jaw clenches in suppressed anger as he defiantly questions the talk of a harsh punishment. His face lights up menacingly. He smirks, challenging Tails' authority and vowing to make him suffer. Karen mentally vows revenge against Tails. A sleek, futuristic train now waits at the station. An announcement echoes. Preparations for its departure are complete. Karen sternly warns a bald man not to cause trouble, and the man asserts that was exactly what he wanted to say. The bald man calls out to Karen, who turns back with a questioning look. He thanks Karen for giving him another chance, making Karen question what he's referring to. That's when Karen reveals the truth. He's taking him to the capital for imprisonment. The bald man reacts in shock as Karen reminds him not to let his guard down. A voice then states that the squad leader is all aboard. The man announces their departure to Zeres, who gives his approval. Zeres warns the group to steer clear of trouble in the capital and to return safe and sound. But Karen immediately worries they'll look like delinquents to anyone watching. On the train platform, Zeres reiterates his warning about hidden flaws, and Karen just lets out an annoyed sound. With one final order, Zeres tells the group it's time to depart. But wait, someone abruptly calls out Karen's name. It's Pale, telling him to hold on. Karen asks his father if he's been in Cheonghaisong. Pale explains his grandfather called him there, but there's more to it. He just wanted to see Karen one last time before he leaves, which completely surprises Karen. Pale reveals Karen's maternal grandfather is eagerly awaiting his arrival, and Karen quickly agrees, saying he can't wait either. So Karen, ever the pragmatist, asks if his grandfather has prepared lots of gifts for him, and Pale just smiles gently. But instead of answering, Pale taps Karen on the shoulder, making him pause, lost in thought. Then, with a gentle hand on Karen's head, Pale tells him to return safely and, just like Zeres, warns them not to cause too much trouble. Meanwhile, Tails sits in a stately chair, an open book in hand, looking pensively to the right. He's reading, but his mind is on the group's departure. He reveals the second prince's wife is plotting in the capital, but he firmly declares they won't be getting involved in that. Back on the train, Karen impatiently stares out the window. He asks Hans about their arrival time in the capital. Hans replies they'll be there in about 6 hours, passing through the Thebes autonomous territory. Karen, intrigued, immediately asks about that territory. Leo clarifies, isn't that the unusual city where commoners directly elect their mayor? A place with developed commerce and industry, totally unlike farming regions. Karen quickly connects the dots, realizing it's where the most money circulates in the entire empire. Hans confirms this, explaining that in Thebes, money is class. Hans continues, explaining the city's vast capital gives it huge influence over the empire, often leading other regional lords to try and severely check its power. Corin affirms this, remembering that serfs sometimes fled to Thebes to escape tyrannical lords. But Hans adds that Thebes is friendly with Cheonghaisong, sometimes even commissioning large-scale requests from their order of knights, which genuinely surprises Karen. Looking out the window, Karen thinks to himself, wishing to visit the territory if he gets the chance. And just like that, an announcement blares. They're soon entering the Thebes' autonomous territory. Karen immediately declares he's thinking of sneaking away to explore after their schedule is done. Leo, of course, eagerly wants to join him. But suddenly, Karen's expression shifts. He's deep in serious contemplation, sensing something unusual. His sword, the guillotine, reacts with an electrical force. He knows his sword is responding to something. It's sensing danger. Karen's mind races. Did Tails or Raphael plant a spy among their group? He ponders. They're not foolish enough to risk so much, are they? But then, Hans calls out. Karen urgently tells Hans, contact the Thebes' autonomous territory. Hans looks surprised, asking, why the sudden order? Karen aggressively snaps. No time to explain. Alert the other Ks, prepare for attack. Hans immediately understands the urgency. Hans instantly commands his entire entourage to prepare for an attack, and his members acknowledge the order. Karen's thoughts turn to an external threat. How would attackers target a moving train? On the dusty ground, a train wheel rests on its track, a red rope lying beside it. A soft step sounds nearby. A hooded man stands, back turned, in a desolate landscape. He watches a steam train rapidly approach, its headlight burning bright through the haze. Then he declares, the plan is beginning. In a wooded area, more hooded figures gather. One lights a fuse connected to barrels on the train tracks. As the train approaches, the hooded man urges them. Hurry! He announces the attachment and orders everyone to brace for the imminent explosion. The glowing fuse burns rapidly, racing towards the hidden explosive. With a colossal force, the explosives detonate, rocking the dense forest. Birds scatter as, from the very center of the explosion, a monstrous entity's shadowy form is revealed. In the Thebes autonomous region, a voice complains that the National Tax Service is really putting on the pressure. Isn't it all because they got caught money laundering? Another voice asks. But then, another voice angrily clarifies that it was only about them. What about him? He demands, pointing. The two point at each other, while the mayor remains completely silent, just watching them argue. He touches his head, sighing in pure stress, wishing he hadn't even come. He gets it now, why he can't have a conversation with commoners. He suggests to himself that he should just retire after becoming the Minister of Finance. Why did he even agree to be mayor? He wonders. As he watches the commoners bicker, he thinks about how this is supposedly a charming city, where everyone has equal opportunity regardless of status. But in reality, it's just where commoner merchant groups and noble groups constantly clash. His head starts to hurt. Isn't this just a chaotic mess, he asks them? All of a sudden, a man arrives, calling out his name and startling him. The man starts to whisper something into his ear. The mayor understands, and everyone else just wonders what they're talking about. He orders the man to leave, saying he understands, and the man agrees. Then the man asks, what kind of urgent news was so important that he had to interrupt their meeting? Is it related to the tax audit? He asks. The mayor lights his cigar, telling him not to worry. It's nothing related to the tax audit. The man nervously asks what he means. Has the tax audit been canceled? The mayor smirks and denies it. He explains that it's not all about the tax audit, making the man even more curious. So, the mayor reveals the shocking truth. 5 minutes ago, a train bound for the capital, which departed from the Reston ducal family, exploded, and Grand Duke Reston's grandsons were reportedly on board. With a grim expression, the man asks what he means by on board. The mayor grimly asks, what else could the situation mean? He reveals they are all dead now. Ruined train tracks and scattered debris stretch across a desolate landscape, showing the catastrophic aftermath. Inside a damaged train car, Karen looks up in intense distress, his face streaked with dust and grime. He's clearly shaken. Still shaken, Karen looks at Hans, who is also in shock, asking him, what's happening? Hans quickly asks if he's hurt, but Karen says he only has a minor scratch. So, Hans calls for a situation report. A voice seriously reports. 1 person injured, 2 lightly injured, with Dale identified as the seriously hurt one. Another voice continues, identifying Erhan, stating there are 2 casualties in their car. Karen thinks the situation must be serious if even the lowest-ranking Erhan is reporting. He then turns to Hans, asking if he knows their current location. Hans states they're about 10 kilometers away from the Duke's autonomous region. Hans reveals he's already contacted the autonomous region, anticipating their mobilization even before Karen woke up. With a resolute look, Hans orders Karen and Leo. Run as far away as possible. My squad and I will buy you time. As Hans confirms his orders, Karen eyes the guillotine, reacting once more. What's happening? Attackers. He firmly plants his sword, questioning the sudden presence of attackers as he reacts from the ground. But Karen apologetically refuses Hans's order. We can't leave, he states. Sen immediately asks, why not? Karen explains. These attackers destroyed the Emperor's railway. That's an act of treason. Leo grips his sword. Karen argues, we can't run from enemies like this, especially with your injured leg. He asks Leo, can you fight? Leo, defiant despite his injury, firmly confirms. I can fight. Karen then declares, only one option remains. Suddenly, a loud grunt of pain and surprise echoes from a hooded man. A hooded man grunts in pain, reeling back from a severe strike as blood splatters. Karen stands menacingly after unleashing an attack, while the man looks on in shock. Karen aggressively commands, kill them all. Kill our attackers. An explosive attack erupts, generating a bright light and debris, sending him flying into the air. A hooded man then looks down at the ground, deep in thought. Karen is surprised, realizing there are far more of them than he expected. A teal hooded blade subtly shifts their weight with a sound. Amidst a cloudy landscape, a voice commands a second squad to dismount, then another shouts, protect the young masters. On a dusty, war-torn road, numerous enemy soldiers clash against allied knights. Hans observes the approaching enemy forces, assessing them. All shield knights, rank 3 or higher. Karen agrees. Hans continues his tactical assessment, drawing attention to their leader. He reveals the leader is a rank 6 individual. The leader then calls out, Karen Reston. He commands Karen to abandon their weapons and surrender. Karen knows the leader is magically distorted. The leader continues his offer, promising to spare the allied knights and servants if they cooperate. But Karen stands amidst splattered blood, aggressively challenging his opponents. Come at me, all of you at once. As the enemy advances, he confidently faces the many hooded figures. 2 hooded figures react with visible shock and concern. They knew Karen's unexpected power wasn't part of their plan. Their leader then commands everyone to move aside as he steps forward. He confidently states, I'll handle Karen myself. Hearing this, Karen gazes intently with a stern expression. Are you finally stepping up? He asks the leader. Suddenly, Karen's eyes go wide, a surprised gasp escaping him as he questions, what just happened? But before he can even process it, Hans is there. His massive sword flashes, deflecting the leader's attack in the nick of time, while Karen watches on, still reeling in shock. Hans warns Karen, his voice firm. This opponent is dangerous. Step back. The leader, however, just sneers, threatening Hans directly. You're only rushing your own death.